Okay, that's not good. I'm leaving it on for now.
Testing.
Yeah.
Testing. Mine works.
Suck into it and you test.
Does this work? Okay, much better. Thank you very much. So once again, welcome to our meeting. It is Tuesday, March 14th, regular meeting of the Board of Trustees for the Peralta Community College District. It is 5:59, so we're starting 1 minute ahead of schedule. Let's go ahead and do our Pledge of Allegiance. And I'd like to ask our trustee-elect, Gonzalez Brito, to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you very much. And we'll move to our next item, which is your swearing in ceremony. Do you have your person here to swear you in? I believe Councilmember Jenkins is with us. Go ahead. You go stand right there. Councilmember Jenkins is a pro.
Oh, you guys got a paper? No. Oh. You guys want to?
I will bring it out to you in 1 minute.
No, it's okay. You ready?
Do I don't have to put my hand on it?
No. It's a formality. All right. So I, in the state your name,
Paulina Gonzalez Brito,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution
that I will support and defend the Constitution
of the United
of
States
the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution
true faith and allegiance to the Constitution
of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California.
that I take this obligation freely
Take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or reservation,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. I did this a couple of times. And that I will well and faithfully
faithfully
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
discharge the duties which I am about to enter.
Congratulations, trustee.
Yeah, I have to say something.
If you want to.
If you'd like to, you can.
Well, I just want to say thank you, and I really appreciate the opportunity and look forward to working with all of you, and especially for students, staff, and faculty.
All right. And with that, let's go ahead and do roll call.
Student trustee Hogan,
Present.
student trustee Latino,
Here.
trustee Withrow,
Here.
trustee Johannes,
Here.
trustee Gonzalez Ewan,
Right here.
trustee Napoleon Bellaris.
Here.
Trustee Gonzalez Brito,
Here.
trustee Quinlan,
Here.
trustee Delphine Polk.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Great. Thank you very much. We will move to the affirmation of the statement of cooperation. The Peralta Board has adopted a statement of cooperation that codifies our commitment to set the bar for excellence in governance and community college leadership and lead by example for our Peralta colleges. The full statement of cooperation is attached to the agenda, but in summary, we have committed to build trust and seek to understand each other, to be prepared and follow good governance and ethical protocols, and model the behavior that we want others to exhibit. We therefore commit to honoring and upholding these commitments in words and in action. Okay, next, approval of the agenda. I believe.
So moved.
Okay, second. I believe we had some things that we wanted pulled, right, Chancellor?
Full item 7.7
7.2? Okay.
For clarification.
Great.
And we also wanted to pull one of the APs, I believe, trustee Withrow. And it's part of the consent calendar. And
Which item is it?
Presentation on. Is not on.
We can hear you now, Bill.
I'd like to have be pulled so that the presentation can give us more information, and what I'd like to have is go back to another meeting so that we can get a more of an in-depth understanding of what's going on.
And which item is that?
it was
4.1?
4.1. It
Okay.
was only one of the items under 4.1.
Right.
And I believe this is the first reading, so we can have that information by the second reading.
Okay, great. Are there any other changes to the agenda, colleagues? Okay, hearing none. Let's go ahead and do our roll call.
I need a second, Madam President.
I'll second.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Student trustee Hogan,
Yes.
student trustee Latino,
Yes.
trustee Withrow,
Yes,
trustee Johannes,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Ewan,
Yes.
trustee Napolia Bellarice,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Brito,
Yes.
trustee Quinlan,
yes,
trustee Delphine Polk.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you very much. Approval of the minutes. Can I hear a motion, please?
so moved.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Student trustee Hogan,
Yes.
student trustee Latino,
Yes.
trustee Withrow,
Yes,
trustee Johannes,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Ewan,
Yes.
trustee Napolia Bellarice,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Brito,
Abstain since I wasn't here.
noted. Trustee Quinlan,
yes,
trustee Delphine Polk.
Yes,
Motion
very
passes.
much. Thank you. All right, let's move to Associated Student Government Reports. Who do we have first? I believe we have COA first.
Thank you. All we have to report right now is that our president, Tate Myers, will be taking training in the Assemblyman Wicks in Oakland, and she'll also be attending the Holistic Safety and Security Wellness Advisory Committee later on as well. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. We'll go ahead and move to BCC.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
We can.
Perfect. So a couple weeks ago, a handful of BCC students were sent to Los Angeles to attend the A2 Men conference. And I was one of the handful, and I had a great experience. I got to go with Professor Jimmy, as well as also seen VP Sean. And it was a great experience, had a fun time, cool networking event. And then the ASBCC will be sending 5. Where is it? Oh. Yeah, the ASBCC will be sending 5 students to Long Beach to attend the Student Senate of California Community College's General Assembly. Yesterday, at BCC, the Women's Leadership Club hosted a viewing and discussion of The Legally Blonde. An important deadline that's coming up, March 17th, is the last day for students to petition for a degree. So please make sure you talk to a counselor or get that done. ASBCC candidates who are running for the upcoming election can now start campaigning. And please make sure you guys are following the campaigning rules. And then every Tuesday, BCC is providing free meals for students from the local businesses from 12 to 2 p.m. As well as every Thursday, BCC is also providing food from our food pantry for students and faculty from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does Merritt College have a report today?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Hi. So the ASMC would like to report that on every Thursday from 12 to 2 o'clock, we have our food bank, Merritt sold, and students and faculty staff are welcome to participate. This week from 313 to 316, we have our Spirit Week. The ASMC has a student town hall on 315. Tomorrow, we have our Club Rush tomorrow. And also this week, we're having a talent show on 316. Anyone that would like to participate, we will be on campus from 1 to 2 o'clock on each day. The ASMC will also be traveling to the General Assembly to advocate for student rights and needs from March 31st through April 2nd. And that concludes our report. Thank you.
Thank you, student trustee. And then last but certainly not least, Laney College.
Thank you, Sasha. Good evening, Peralta District. I am Omolola Tolagbe representing Laney College Student Government. And here is our report. ASLC will attend the SSCCC General Assembly in Long Beach from March 30th to April 2nd, 2023. And Be Like Coders, in partnership with ASLC, will host hackathon on April 15th to April 16th, 2023. This is a 24-hour event. The Saturday portion of this hackathon event will be in person at the Laney Bistro, and the rest of it will be online. All high school and U.S. college students are welcome to participate. ASLC has received numerous reports on reasons why our fellow students cannot attend classes due to a lack of housing. Some are reportedly sleeping or living in their cars. Signing a housing petition is one of the ways of addressing this housing issue. And this was initiated by the Laney chapter of the Poor People's Campaign. Please sign and share the petition using this link, www.change.org/studenthousingpccd. Laney chapter of the Poor People's Campaign has organized a teaching slated for April 19th, 2023. The topic is social housing and supporting public education. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. We will now move to 2.9, Peralta Classified Senate Report.
Okay, hi, good evening all. So tonight, I would like to share some perspectives from the classified staff regarding professional development and flex days at Peralta. So as many of you know, today the colleges held its mid-semester flex days. A lot of work goes into these flex days. It's my understanding that staff is also very key into the implementation, helping to organize the logistics of, as well as participating in some aspects of flex days. But it's my understanding as well that Peralta is, and really all colleges in our system are obligated to support flex days as part of professional development. But what some might refer to as sort of the dirty little secret, flex days were never intended for classified staff. There are specifically organized, I should say that the flex days are really specifically organized around an ed code obligation for faculty professional development and not for classified professional development. And so while we have seen some useful presentations and workshops during flex days that are geared specifically at staff, those sessions are really far and few between. And so I'd like to sort of explain myself as to just through some examples as to why I'm making that that assertion. Today, a few of us, I should say very few of us, had the privilege of learning about the Vision Resource Center, a training that Inger Stark did for us, which is basically around the portal, if you will, a sort of a training and PD portal established by the state chancellor's office. Most of us in attendance found the session to be actually very informative, and I think that it's a session that's in the right direction. Later on, I also participated in a plenary workshop at BCC that attempted to sort of take this issue on around professional development for staff, what works, what doesn't work, and that kind of stuff. And again, I truly applaud the hard work of very talented colleagues that I have the pleasure of knowing and working with. But as I attempted to convey to some in our breakout session, when it comes to Flex Day professional development, specific to classified staff, we are spinning our wheels. We continue to try to fit the proverbial square peg in a round hole. I've attended many Flex Day activities over the years I've been with Peralta that have attempted to answer this problem. And while it's somewhat of an enigma, it's by no means an intractable problem. Some of us are undoubtedly aware of the recent initiative called the PDLC, which I believe stands for the Professional Development Learning Center Initiative, that our Siri Brown is leading. PD offerings over the past several weeks have included contracts, board docs, PeopleSoft Finance and Budget Basics. And there have also been PDLC sessions on leadership, sexual harassment, and pedagogy. Bringing subject matter experts from in and outside Peralta on these topics is not only useful, but I think a vital to sustaining and improving on our productivity for all employees, administrators, faculty, and classified staff. But all of this does not yet amount to professional development for classified staff. Professional development that occurs a couple of days during flex days each semester is wholly inadequate to professional development in other professions, other industries, and even at other colleges. Professional development somehow needs to be part of the package for staff. PD needs to be ingrained in our thinking, in our culture. Professional development must be an ongoing, regular activity for staff. I would say that one shining example that we have at Peralta is what occurs with Local 39 in their contract for career advancement and their mentoring program for engineers, for example. And SEIU does not have such a provision. At the College of Marin, this is when I first heard it, and I hope it shocks you as much as it shocked me, but it is our understanding that at the College of Marin, professional development for classified staff occurs every Friday. Every Friday afternoon, the college essentially shuts down and undergoes a variety of professional development activities. Now, at Peralta, our employees at the district administrative center, for example, aren't included for the most part in flex day activities. This is mostly due to the fact that there really aren't faculty working at the district. There are mostly SEIU, Local 39, and administrators at the district administrative center. So our classified professionals at this, very key and important arm of Peralta don't typically have that opportunity. So what the Classified Senate is urging the board to consider are going to be future initiatives, both by the Classified Senate and both by SEIU, that will promote the idea and the actualization of professional development for classified staff that becomes part of our culture. And like I said, we have a number of initiatives that are headed in the right direction. But let's, again, not try to fit that square peg in the round hole, because there is a clear definition and a clear obligation for faculty. And we can let faculty comment on how successful that is. It appears to us that it actually is quite successful. And so what we were asking the Board of Trustees and our administrators to think broader, think bigger, and think how classified staff can be supported for actual career advancement, and to have that support by managers so that those dreams and those objectives can be realized. That's going to conclude the Classified Senate report for this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We will now move to the District Academic Senate report, and we have Dr. Moore here in the boardroom with us.
Good evening. This evening, thank you for those of you from the trustees who were able to attend our tenure reception that we had for 7 of our faculty who attained their tenure. For those of you who may not know, it's in the California Community College system, it's a 4-year process that these faculty have to go through. And we are very fortunate to now have these tenured faculty. And, when you think about Peralta and as California Community Colleges since roughly 1968, and you think about the generations of those, similar to Lewis, who was a faculty member here at Laney College, is that we continue to have retirements and we continue to have new faculty come in, and it's a process. And part of that process is this tenure reception that we have. So I want to congratulate and thank those members of the board who attended that. I want to speak to just a couple of different issues. I want to thank Roberto from Classified Senate for speaking about professional development. I know that for all of us, professional development has been something that we all have tried to improve here. And I'm really excited about some of the things that he was speaking about, because the Professional Development and Learning Center has basically gone off the ground in February. And we have had some great successes with the various workshops that have been going on and HR in terms of their onboarding. And I wanted to speak to that because yesterday I attended a IEPI. Thank you. IEPI. We all, the colleges in the district received monies to really focus on this professional development. And as part of it, the team came to hear from us in terms of what we had submitted about developing this professional development learning center. And it was a great meeting that we had with the teams. And I am excited about the possibilities that this professional development learning center will bring. We could have more opportunities for classified professionals. We can have more opportunities for administrators. We can have more opportunities for faculty. As I explained to the team that was visiting, on the faculty side, we have basically had the part of the monies, the funds that go to professional development is negotiated with our union, PFT. And that particular item hasn't changed probably in the last 30 years. Jennifer would probably know exactly when was the last time that was discussed, but it's been a long time. And those monies have basically been frozen in terms of the amount. And part of the problem to that for faculty have been, there's only a scant few of faculty who could take opportunities to utilize that to go to statewide or national conferences. So it's a very limited amount. Certainly for classified, there isn't any. Fortunately for administrators, they usually have their own allocated money where they could go to their conferences. So part of, I think, the effort has been to really create a homegrown, home run professional development program here, and I think we're starting it. But what I'm excited about is the possibilities of where it could go, and I look forward to seeing the course of not just the rest of this semester, but going into next year as we develop it more and we start to have much more activity going on. Hearing from some of the members of that visiting team, I was excited about how they were using non-credit, for example, for providing different opportunities for faculty to participate and give workshops and so on. And they use any number of different other tools that could be used. And so the expansion of this, I think what Roberto is referring to and hoping for is something I really look forward to. The other comment that I wanted to make today is I'm certain that we'll be able to talk about this when it comes up on the action items for the board, but BP 2331, I explained to the chancellor at the PGC meeting that I wanted to come to the board and talk about how great the process has been and to thank the board for allowing such a process to occur. We've been very thorough in the process. As many of you know on the board, there was a whole time frame that was created in order to have this BP go to the colleges, go to the college councils, go to constituency groups, go to governance processes, student leaders, classified, faculty, administrators, all have been able to contribute to this. And I could say that in my last 14 years or whatever that I've been here at this district, I really have never seen any BP go through such an extensive input into it. And so I wanted to bring that to the attention of the Board of Trustees, because oftentimes, for example, Trustee Gonzalez-Ewan has asked, well, has it gone through participatory governance? And I could say unequivocally, no, it hasn't just gone through participatory governance. It has gone everywhere, and that everybody has been able to comment on it and to participate on it. And one of the things that we really appreciated in that process was, in fact, the president, Delphine Polk, and Trustee Quinlan, the vice president, attended a PGC meeting where they were able to hear the various comments. I could tell you that folks really appreciated the fact of having that kind of engagement, particularly because this was the selection, the BP on the selection of the chancellor. And so I wanted to convey that all to you today, because as you guys discuss this for yourselves and consider approval of it, I wanted you to know how extensive the effort that the chancellor made to have voices heard. And while it might not necessarily be the document that everybody likes, everybody felt very, very comfortable in terms of the opportunities of participating in it. And so I wanted that to be very, very clear. I think that it was a very important step that this district has taken, this trustees have taken, and certainly this chancellor has taken, to really, really try to get all of those voices. And I'm pretty sure you'll hear more about that, but I wanted to let you know those things were going on. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Moore. We'll go ahead and move to 2.11, public communications on matters that are not on the agenda. And I believe we do have some speaker cards.
Yes, Madam President, we do. We have Jennifer Shinosky.
Is it on? Yes. Thanks. I couldn't be here and not speak, so good evening. I want to welcome our newest trustee, Trustee Gonzalez Brito, and take the opportunity of having a new trustee to just recommend that everyone take the time to talk to all constituency groups at all times, to walk our campuses, to actually talk to students, to talk to staff, to talk to faculty, because getting information from one source is never going to be all the information. So I really hope that you'll take the time to do that. 4 years ago, we were fully accredited. We had an unprecedented number of interim appointments, and morale in the district was really low. And some of you on the board were elected after that and helped make change. And we are once again in a position where we have 1/3 of our administrators are interim direct appointments. More and more dollars are going towards the district office, and morale is quite low at the colleges. So please talk to everyone. Please remember that your union representatives are representatives. So instead of looking at us like individual people, remember that we speak for our members. Thank you.
Next, we have Leslie Blakey and Nate Fowling, who's ceded their time to Leslie.
Thank you. Good evening, trustees. My name is Leslie Blakey, and I am the Faculty Senate President at Laney College and a biology faculty member. The Laney Senate sent you a resolution and supporting documents last week informing you about the lack of communication and action on behalf of DGS around facilities at our campus. These also can be found in the Laney board docs for the Faculty Senate if you'd like to see them as well. Many of our campus work orders have been unresolved, some dating for years. The new 90-day repair project that DGS has just announced, we created then a new form for people to report in, and in 2 days we have 54 work orders that were turned in of unresolved and some new issues. Although our campus facilities management reports the work orders to the district, it is DGS's role to execute the repairs. I'm sure you can understand our frustration around the issues that have directly impacted our students, faculty, classified professionals, and administration at Laney. Things like ceiling tiles that fall, negative airflow that prevent doors from closing completely, or doors that require great force to open, lack of hot water, lack of heat for months, broken elevators, electric issues, and other health and safety hazards are just some of the problems. Over the years, the Senate has received promises that our longstanding issues would be solved with Measure A or Measure G or HERF funds and a countless lineup of independent contractors. The most recent 90-day plan, which sounds like a really timely response, actually takes us to the end of the semester and months after it was needed. In fact, the Senate started inquiring in fall 2021 about the urgent return to campus issues and what would be fixed and how long would it take. Many of those issues are still not solved. As a faculty member, I plan for the semester and hand that information out in a syllabus, a contract with my students about the expectations, the due dates, a timeline for the class. We have asked for timelines, schedules of repairs, and written communication from DGS to our college. We have filled out work orders, communicated through our facilities committees, and sent letters to the district, but the communication and our voices have been disregarded. Or we are informed of decisions without consultation. And then after the fact, we are given a PowerPoint presentation with plans, but no further follow-up. Faculty in March 2020 did the miraculous. We turned our entire education system, which had been mostly face-to-face, to online, reassuring students they could continue with their education in the new modalities during the pandemic. We have since been, in those 3 years, and we're at the 3-year anniversary here, been scolded for not trying hard enough to return to face-to-face, or been accused of being lazy because we continue offering modalities online. First, teaching online is not easier than teaching in person. And second, students vote with their enrollment feet. If it is too cold or too hot in the classroom to learn, then you're going to prefer to sign up for online classes. If we don't fix our infrastructure problems, we cannot fix our enrollments. Faculty are not just complaining or lazy or troublemakers, but trying to solve urgent issues. But don't take my word for it. I invite the trustees to come on a campus tour so you can really see the things firsthand. And it doesn't just have to be at Laney, because we have broken elevators and no heat at College of Alameda and Merritt, and BCC also has issues. So please do come. We would welcome it. We are asking you, the board, for accountability and to help us get explanations as well as action from DGS to fix our infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other speaker cards, Sasha?
Yes, we have one last one, Bernard Ashcraft.
Great.
And I'm not good at technology. Once again, good evening to the trustees and to the staff. I'm here on behalf of the Bay Area Business Roundtable. We are a social and economic justice organization with a platform on workforce development. Bay Area Business Roundtable has had more than a 20-year relationship with Peralta Community College District. And I was just sitting here thinking a minute ago about how when Trustee Ewan first came on board in 2002, he and I had several meetings to talk about workforce development. And of course, longtime friend and supporter, Linda Handy. They've always been supporter of the Roundtable and Workforce Development platform. And it was those meetings with Trustee Ewan that led me to President Odell Johnson at Laney College. It was Odell who told me it was time to put the community back into the college. And so to do that, we said, let's work together with industry, education, government, and community. And so it was with his idea and thinking that we could work with industry if we could develop curriculums that were in demand of industry. And so we got with AT&T and Comcast. We built an industrial classroom at Laney to do training for field service technicians. And let me tell you, it was extremely successful. But we didn't stop there. We went over to the biotech companies and we said, we need to get people, especially from low-income communities, into careers in the biotech world. I had a little bit of knowledge about biotechnology because I spent 4 years at UC San Diego in biology research. So we got several companies to agree if we could put together a curriculum that would satisfy their needs. Once again, came back to Laney and we worked out a program to train biotechnology technicians. And we went through with that. We said, well, we got other career pathways that people need to know about. And so I began to work with Odell very closely, but then also Frank Chong. And I'm gonna tell y'all, I missed Frank Chong. I really do. Because he's the person that showed me how you get things done. And we got things done.
Who's that?
And so then, of course, Elnor Webb was president of Laney, and we worked very closely together. I just wanted you to have a little background on the project that I'm going to talk about. We are also the agency that some of y'all might remember.
5 seconds.
Right. Okay. Yes, yes. Yes. I want to thank Dave Johnson for working with us and telling me what to tell y'all. But it was the Bay Area Business Roundtable that started the first green jobs training program in the Bay Area and was kicked off at Merritt College. Mayors from 4 major cities came to that kickoff. Oakland mayor, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Fullerton. I just want you to have a little bit of history because my working partner from iRhythm Technologies, Ken Baker, who's director of talent acquisition, couldn't be here because of his wife just had surgery. But he'll be up on campus tomorrow to kick off the cardiac monitor technician program. And at some point, I hope that you will come by to see the program. And I want to really, again, thank David for helping put this together. It took us much too long. I mean, it took a year, but we got it done because working with industry, there's a need to have a curriculum that meets their demands. And we were finally able to do that. And that's why I left with you the little brochures there. And At some point in a couple of weeks, I want to work with staff at the Chancellor's office to do a press conference, similar to the one we did with the Green Jobs Kickoff. And so I hope that you will continue to support this new workforce development pathway that we have. It's very unique. Jobs start at $25 an hour plus a $5,000 sign-on bonus. That's unheard of. But we were able to pull it off thanks to the talent acquisition director, Mr. Ken Baker. And so
Sir, I believe that is
that pretty
time.
well does it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Invite me back so I can talk longer.
Thank you very much.
The First Amendment.
Okay, let's go ahead and move to 2.12, Chancellor's reports.
Thank you, President Delphine Polk. And welcome to those of you that are still in the audience, as well as to my colleagues, both on the dais and also sitting here in the galley. Usually I have the presidents do presentation, even though they have provided written correspondence that is included in the board packet. And so I'm going to use executive privilege today. I had already planned on doing it, but it just seems fortuitous. Unfortunately, I don't see the President Blakey here in the audience because I was going to have DGS Interim Director, Vice Chancellor Atheria Smith to give you an update on the 90-day projects. If you recall at the last meeting, I said it was going to be all hands on deck, and I believe that my colleague Donald Moore said he liked that because it was reminded of when his dad was in the military and in the Navy, and all hands on deck meant just that. That's a priority, and we want to move forward with it. So I'd like for IVC Smith to give you an update, and hopefully those individuals that spoke will see the video and know what we're doing in regards to that. So IVC Smith.
Thank you, Chancellor. Good evening. Good evening. Can you hear me now? Okay. Good evening, Chancellor Jackson, and good evening, Board of Trustees. You know, I welcome the opportunity to speak to you this evening to tell you the updates on what we've worked on. We have really hit the ground running. Starting in the last few weeks, DGS has attended a number of health and safety meetings at each campus, and we've attended the Laney Facilities Committee meetings. We've also developed a new work order system for the critical needs, and we've asked people to submit their responses through this new work order system so that we can get it in real time. And we've worked with IT and, of course, M&O to organize this. We've asked the stakeholders to please, at each meeting we've attended, we've asked the stakeholders to go ahead and feel free to put their submissions in, and we will investigate this. We are working to come back to this body on March the 28th. We are working with legal to do a master agreement. And what that means is we are going to invoke our CUPCA agreement, the California Uniform Public Contract Costing Accounting Act. And we will be able to contract with over 20 vendors for under $60,000 each. We will be able to be flexible and be able to go district-wide and work and do electrical, plumbing, utility work to address all the needs that are going to come in. Now we are developing two buckets. The first bucket will represent immediate needs, things that we can fix immediately. And we need these vendors because there's so much work to be done. For example, up at Merritt, there is over 60, I believe 50, 60 lights that are out in one area. It's dark. we do not have the manpower to address that. So we need to get moving and get these people on the ground and moving to work with us. And that's why CUCA is so important to us. So the first 90 days, we will go out and fix those priorities for each college, those things that are immediate that we can address in 90 days. But also there's a second bucket, and that second bucket will require assessments of things that are going to take more than 90 days to fix. So we will do those assessments, come back to you, and let you know what the cost of those items are. We are looking to possibly complete those heavy duty items probably by September, if not soon after. So those are all the things that we have worked on. And again, I'm looking forward to coming back March 28th and to talk to you further about our master service agreement, the vendors that we are going to be utilizing, and how we're going to move forward. We also, I hope by that time, we will have our priority list of bucket 1, bucket 2 for each and every college. And we will work closely with the colleges. I have asked the colleges, although they meet once a month, I've asked them to please consider meeting with us maybe twice a month, if not more, so we can make sure we address everything. Thank you. Oh, yes, and the funding sources. There are some things that will come out of the HERF funds, such as we will go around again and do the ventilation. We will do retesting. We will redo the filters. That is strictly out of the HERF funds. We're looking to utilize M&O funds and redevelopment funds for items that do not meet the Measure G. So it's a combination of Measure G, redevelopment funds, M&O funds, and HERF funds to get all of these items moving, completed, and done. Thank you.
Thank you, Interim Vice Chancellor Atheria Smith. One of the other things that I wanted to put forward to the board, especially because we do have a new member, when we started the return to campus, we did it in echelon starting in 2021, in the fall of 2021. Previous to that, we only had certain limited career and technical programs that really could not satisfy the requirements unless they met face-to-face. And we started that, like I said, in echelons. We did not open a door and say 100% everybody show up every day, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. And so that started in 2021. We got a little bit better in the spring of that year. And then in fall of last year was really when we made the push. And that was when we started with Spring is Free. And we saw double-digit enrollment. Prior to that, many of the items that precluded us from coming back fully face-to-face are identified in the report from Forensic Analytics. And they include some of the things that even Dr. Blakey mentioned that have been here for years. Years means more than 2021 when I came on board. Years dating back to 2014, where there were pictures of filters that hadn't been changed. So this is a systemic problem. It didn't take us a month or two, or even when COVID started, to get into this situation. And it's going to take us a little bit longer to get out of it, just because it is so massive. So luckily for us, and I hate to say it this way, but luckily for us, we do have some funds that we can utilize that we did not have before, simply because of HERF, because the magnitude of the efforts are such that we would not be able to move forward with the funds that we have, just if we looked at general funds out of our general fund 1. So I know people are impatient. I would be too when it's cold and hot. But we found that it's not just because of equipment breaking down, it's also because of malicious intent, both internal and external. And so can't go into all of that right now, but it is, we've got to change our culture. If you see something, you have to let somebody know so that we can fix it. But we are doing the best that we can, given the issues that have been persistent for so long. So thank you, President Reese.
Madam President.
That must be
It's
an
all-
old habit.
It's all good.
Self-invoke, my apologies.
Would this be an appropriate time for questions?
Absolutely.
I believe Trustee Gonzalez Yuan has his hand up.
Thank you very much, Chancellor, and thank you, Vice Chancellor Smith. It's helpful to get the communication, and I'm really looking forward to having you come back to report on the priorities. And Chancellor, I want to raise something that that you just said that I think is sort of critical for us. You said this problem didn't develop overnight. This has been a long-standing problem. And I think what I want to raise is this. If in fact this problem didn't develop overnight, but this board has consistently asked for changes, expedited repairs, et cetera, there's clearly something in the system that isn't working, right? So you come in, we're dealing now with a crisis level situation in many instances, but isn't this a really good opportunity, not immediately right here in this meeting, but isn't this a good opportunity to understand what is broken about the system, that some filters could go for 20 years without, or decades, whatever it is, without being repaired, that we've got such a big back order that the General Services Department is now dealing with. And as I wrote you earlier today, I don't think this is an indication that there is indifference to the challenges in general services. I don't think that people are indifferent in general services to the hardships on the campuses, but I do think that they and the campuses are dealing with some systemic problems.
Yes.
And so if we do these emergency fixes, but we don't deal with the systemic problem that leads to this backlog, then we're going to be right back here in another year or 2 years or 3 years. So I applaud the initiative and the urgency with which Vice Chancellor Atheria Smith is now handling this. But I do think that we need to fix the system. And right now, I don't think we understand what's wrong with the system. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I think, IBC Smith, did you want to say something?
Yes, please. The way that I'm approaching this is I would like to take the high level. And when I say that, people said this has been broken for 5 years. This has been broken for 10 years. This has been broken for 25 years. You know what? The way I see it is you are asking me, all these things have been broken for 25 years. So what are you going to do about it? And so that is the approach that DGS is taking with this. We are going to address and try to work with the chancellor, the board, the colleges, and address these systemic problems also. Again, as the chancellor said, there is internal and external vandalism going on. So every time something is fixed, something is broken.
The other thing is, we do know we don't know the whole picture, Trustee Ewing, but we do know some of the elements of what the problems are. And we are addressing those at the same time so that we aren't back in this boat once we get things fixed. And I can't go into more detail than that at this point, because there are health and safety issues and primarily on the safety side that need to be discussed in closed session.
Thank you very much. And I think at some point, the rest of the community actually does need to be brought in on kind of an understanding of and a contribution of understanding what the systemic problems are. I'm sure they're multifold, but I think until we have that level of conversation and then analysis of the problem, we'll continue to get a lot of finger pointing. Well, people will be pointing fingers at general services and saying, why aren't you doing this, et cetera. So
You're right.
Again, I applaud the speedy work that is now underway and look forward to a deeper discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. VP Quinlan.
Thank you. So, as long as I've been here, this district has never really funded maintenance. If you do not check the oil on your car, pretty soon your car is going to stop running and you're going to have to buy a new engine or a new transmission. If you do not take care of your house, pretty soon your house is going to start falling apart. You're going to have to sell it or pay a huge sum of money to make it livable again. We do not do that with our district. We do not fund. Almost all of our funding from maintenance comes from the state. So it depends on, excuse me, how generous the state is that year. It means you cannot plan from year to year because you don't know how much funding you're going to have from year to year. And then all of a sudden you have a little bit of money and it has to be spent in a certain amount of time. And it's panic city on trying to get that money spent and the fixes made. So just like in 2015 and 2016, we approached the board and the district out of facilities committee with a plan to actually start funding maintenance. And I think we should actually start looking at that again.
Trustee Reese.
Thank you for the report and thank you for the response because that was very helpful. I guess the question that I have, Chancellor, goes back to the situation that we found ourselves in when we approved the turf. And at that particular time, there were many conversations that wanted to take those two items and completely put them in separate pots because they were. But I think a few of the board members, myself included, kept discussing how the situation with the heat was the way that it was. And here we were also paying for new turf. And again, they're very different pots, they're very different situations, and they're both equally important. So I think the question that I have, I know that the question that I have is, where are we in terms of the heat? Where are we in terms of, I know that it's complicated, at least in terms of some of the information that other people do not have, but do we have a trajectory or an arc there in terms of, or has it been taken care of? And maybe I just know not of that.
I think the answer, and you can let me start and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think the answer to that question is yes and no. Yes, we've identified what the problem is. Yes, we've purchased the product, the boiler, to be put in place. Yes, the vendor is ready to put it in place, but it requires site preparation. So when we submitted it in to DSA to get the approval for the site preparation, they said, you have not filed reports for 25 years. 25 years, which meant we had to go find the documentation. Who knows where it was? Go through boxes, go to offsite, get that information, go through archives. And we have started to address that. But that is the big problem. I believe part of it was, well, if we can't get the new boiler, let's fix the old boilers, so at least they can get us going until we can put the new boiler out there and get it through DSA for the site plan. We did do that. And then we had internal individuals, and I say internal because an unhoused person doesn't know how to go to this particular closet, to this particular device, and pull the wires out of that particular device. That takes somebody from inside. So that is what has been happening. When we fix one thing, as easy as a switch. We had a vendor come out and say, oh, this is the problem right here. The switch was turned off. The next day, he turned the switch on. The next day, the switch was turned off again. That's the kinds of things that we're dealing with. So I don't know how you stop that other than somebody saw somebody go there and know that that's where that particular item is. So please let us know so we can address it because it's hurting everybody. If it's meant to embarrass me or IVC Smith. I don't know. If it's meant to make a point that I know more than you know, ha ha ha. I have no idea. So we're moving forward and putting things in place with the keyless entry that, we're moving forward on that. We'll be making a presentation to the board on that. The first college that will be selected will be Laney College because it's the largest and the most complex, and we've had the most issues there. But that is what the problem is, internal as well as external. And we have gotten some of the heaters working, but then something else goes wrong. So if I've addressed everything.
Yes, and also on some of the other campuses, we had to fix equipment, and we're in progress of doing so. I think they're up and running.
Yeah. So it is a complex. That's why I said we know what some of the problems are, and we've addressed the problems with the existing boilers that are there, but then you get vandalism and, a faucet handle is knocked off or, and we have to figure out where it is. It's not just, oh, I know exactly what the problem is. We don't know what the problem is. So that then delays a response time. So it's very frustrating because, again, like you said, Trustee Ewing, there's no indifference. It's not like we're sitting here at the district office now, warm and cozy, and we don't care what happens at Laney. I mean, they're right across the street, by gosh, and there are brothers and sisters over there. So, but it doesn't help when we have sometimes internal problems as well as external.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions or comments? Okay. Thank you very much for that presentation. Let's go ahead. I believe that 4.1 got pulled, right, Chancellor?
Yes, there was only one item in 4.1, so I would ask the board to please review those. This was our first reading of it. There's no action to be taken at this meeting. We do have a second one coming up at our next meeting. And the item that Trustee Withrow talked about, then we'll discuss at that time. It really is an HR issue, and Dr. Vice Chancellor, Interim Vice Chancellor Ron McKinley is not here. So, and I would not want to have our Director Epps to try to explain something that may have happened before she came on board.
I think that's fair. Okay, we can go ahead and move to the consent calendar. We did pull,
Chancellor?
That's what we were just talking about.
Oh, 3.1.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did skip it. So 3.1. Yes, please go ahead. I apologize.
So 3.1, Maria Spencer. I am so proud of Maria. She is a classified professional leader at Merritt College. I met her when I meet with the Classified Senate on a regular basis, and I did my listening sessions back in 2021. And at that meeting in 2021, Maria was one of the individuals that came forward and said, Dr. J, we really need to look at professional development for classified professionals. And it's taken us a while, Maria, but we've gotten here, I think. And so she wants to give you a presentation regarding professional development and the IEPI grant that we got in which to move forward. So it's on you, Maria. Thank you for being here.
Okay, I'm excited to be here tonight, Board of Trustees, administrators, and Chancellor Jackson. I do have a PowerPoint that Dr. Brown submitted so that it can be shown. Can that be pulled?
Sasha, can you? Sasha? Oh, here it comes.
Here it is. Wonderful. Okay, well, here we go. I think you heard a lot of talk about it. My name is Maria Spencer. I'm a classified member over at Merritt College in Student Services. I'm also the district, I sit on the District Classified Senate, as well as the Merritt Classified Senate. And I sit on several boards at the district, to mention the DASC committee, the District Facilities Committee, and then, just many others. So I'm here to actually bring to you the Peralta Community College District framework and implementation of the Professional Development Learning Center that took place snapping back to summer of 2022, along with Dr. Brown, Inger Stark, and myself as a tri-chair that was kind of directed under Dr. Droker at the time. This actually was a 16-member advisory group that consisted of many administrative faculty, classified professionals, colleges, and the district as a whole. And then it narrowed down to a very small subcommittee where we really started getting the work like focused and zone in on the grant that was supported by it. So in conversation with that, I want to just say that we have grown tremendously in terms of building out the framework from this. And the way we built up the framework was due to, I think next slide, thought I could be able to do it here myself. Had a whole lot of conversations and through shared governance and spending a lot of time with our classified professionals, faculty, and administrators to draw down through surveys and through focus groups information related to professional development and what it looked like for them in terms of where they sat at as an administrator, as a classified member, as a faculty member, as a whole. And so discussion took place. We developed lots of information. We gathered lots of information from that. And I believe the next thing was just looking at the data that came through from this information that we gathered. Next slide. So I'm going to pull up some notes from my team. They're not here with me tonight, but they're here in spirit. But I want to say from this slide deck, there's like 32 response rate from professional development and the onboarding survey that was conducted last fall. And so this has been ongoing since summer, fall, and then we actually went live just recently in February. So it's not a short amount, it's a very short amount of time. But the key things that you want to take away from this is looking at onboarding of our professional staff coming in from a classified viewpoint, from a faculty viewpoint, and from an administrative viewpoint. We're looking at, seeing how when a person gets hired through the onboarding process and how they spend their quality time with a supervisor upon, placement. We also want to look at our technology and how we're interfacing with our PeopleSoft, our new systems that have been improved and updated. And so it's changed a lot throughout the last couple of years. And with new hires, it's going to be brand new, right? And so they're not familiar with our processes. So that was important as part of the onboarding of staff so that they understand what is their role and what they'll be doing and what tools they'll be using at the same time. The other part was looking at 61% of the employees were interested in actual career advancement. Now, if you look back at and I don't know, this was part of the IEP IPR group that came and they asked us, how many folks that we know of that actually graduated from one of the Peralta colleges? I am one of them that went through the ranks of advancement. So I started out with 0 degree to having a degree to transferring to coming back, getting more degrees and actually landing a job at the district, through the chancellor's appointment. So all of this is part of the whole process of thinking smart, thinking the way we need to change things because we want to hire within and advance within. And I think it's critical for us to see that there's mentors sitting all around this room right now that can really support the advancement of our classified staff, even our faculty staff, and who knows, they might be our next president. But more importantly is looking at certain policies and procedures and laws and regulations related to how we utilize our human resources and following those guidelines, because I think it's important is we want to look at certain groups that that zone in on the needs. Because if you think about advancement and the growth of our internal infrastructure, our staff, we're looking at also people coming on board who are students, who aspire to be in your seats, to aspire to be, maybe they want to be a supervisor, or they want to be a faculty. The only way we're going to do that is through like mentoring, right? Bringing them in, letting them be a work study student like I was, and then circling them back and saying, we have a room, we have space for you. So more importantly is going to the next slide, is the voices of classified professionals. This is through focus groups. This was through like an invitation through the survey. And this is what they were saying. You know, we need recognition sometimes, right? We go unnoticed, we're invisible, but we also need access to different pathways to advance to higher paying positions. They aspire to do better, to support, to be involved, right? And engaging. And then you're going to see some that love just doing what they do, but they do need the advanced skills to continue doing that good work, right? They can't do it if they're not getting supervised properly or directed properly, or provide the tools and the instruction to go with it, right? With change. Next slide. So in looking at our framework, based on all of the information that was collected, the framework was, and I'm looking at because my eyes are so tiny here, it's like, we're looking at the different pieces to the framework. And I want to say that in terms of looking at how we develop, you know, from the survey, was it reflects the needs of college onboarding, right? We understand that when you onboard someone from the community who's coming in, they want to take a seat, we want to make sure that they have everything that they need to come from human resources. This means specific training on their benefits, right? Knowing, you know, getting their keys, getting their badges, you know, knowing how to utilize, you know, the training modules through budgets, through requisitions, everything. So we are customizing like their training to meet the needs of all the employees, from administrators to counseling to technology. We're utilizing all these areas to support the proper way to onboard a new staff. In looking at the professional through faculty administration, it's really specific, because some positions do not warrant them to know other things, right? And so we customize only where the new hire is going to go. They're going to get training specific for that area. So if it's I want to say a good example would be a clerk, right? They're going in and they're going to support admissions and records. You would want them to know how to be able to access all the PeopleSoft tools that they need to, so that they can do a really good job. And so making sure that before they even get to the campus, that they have that information. And I know there's going to be a lot of questions, and so I'm going to go to the next slide. And this is exactly what we were talking about, like including everybody in the process. So human resources, the Professional Development Learning Center, and the unions have to be all interconnected when we properly do an onboarding, because the key thing is that all their paperwork is done, that they went through the minimum quals, that they have all the, you know, what it takes on their resume to meet the needs of the job that they're going to be taking. Sending them to Professional Development Learning Center, online, in person, to make sure that they are properly informed about how to utilize these new PeopleSoft tools, and then giving them toolboxes, right? And then the warm greeting from the president or wherever they're going to be going to, so that they get the proper walkthrough. So that's the warm handoff that we're talking about at the specific colleges that the presidents can do and set up with their immediate staff. And then having unions involved to know what their rights are and rules. Next slide. And of course, from this, develop the online training. And these are all geared towards, you know, the needs of what the requests that came through. So you heard Donald Moore, you heard the representative from Classified Senate speak about the trainings that just recently were available for folks, and the numbers were like unbelievable for classified members. There were 45 in one session, just learning how to do a travel authorization form. So that they make sure that whoever they're supporting for travel, that they know how to, do it properly so it doesn't get kicked back, because that's the one thing they want to do. The other thing too is these are updated. So we have a new one. This is just an example of February, but we have another one already posted for March, and people are already like looking for them. Plus, we automatically send out, and I believe Mark does it, the announcements for the trainings that happen regularly. And so, staff are, getting permission from their, immediate supervisors to be part of these trainings. And if they can't, they're recorded. So you can go back and you can actually, you re-listen to the recordings and then, go through it. So there's like really good, I want to say, examples for folks to follow. Next slide. Okay, so we talked about like payroll and all of that goes through, and the learning website. This is the one that I believe Inga Stark set up, and so just for you to go back and look at this, when we opened up, how the web page was set up. And I think there's always going to be room for improvement and growth as we go through, as more requests come in for more trainings. Next slide. And that was, the Vision Resource Center. So, funding, support, and assistance was by IEPI. And I just want to say, I want to share a little bit of happiness is that I actually applied to be a PRT member this year. And so I had been selected to participate, and I'll be going to Mount SAC to be part of one of the first teams to go over as part of the whole process. So tomorrow I leave to go do this. And so my intention of doing this as professional development is a good example of what you can do to volunteer with the state chancellor's office and to bring it back to Peralta so that we could really see from a different viewpoint, how we can better continue the work that we're doing, because we are actually moving in the right direction, as a lot of people were saying, and that I think our mindset is set on establishing foundation for employees, having good retention, making sure that they have all the tools available, because even my daughter was a good example of going to BCC, and she was a student, and now she's a staff assistant to a dean. And so I'm very, very proud of that whole onboarding process, because if it weren't for individuals like here that cue into the needs of students and interests, how can we possibly like grow Peralta, right? And so it's a testimony to show that this works. So I'm really, really happy about the Professional Development Learning Center and what's going to come down the pipeline. So thank you so much. And I believe this might be our last slide moving forward. Yeah, here you go. I want to read this. What's next, right? I want to say that broadening our knowledge for offering further trainings, bringing it down. And if you have something that you feel is important that should happen in this training, we want you to actually do the training. We want you to come forward and actually implement it, adding student records to the onboarding process, because after all, they mirror us. They represent our colleges and everything we do. And so they're properly onboarded and they know how to meet, greet, use the system, check people in. They're more likely to really have, good turnouts with enrollment, retention, increasing time for hands-on support. I think hands-on and shadowing, like a long time ago, many of us did, ongoing assessment, rethinking is really key to how we operate, because not everything works the first time around. That's okay. But, it's why keep doing if it's not working? Change it up. Give me some new ideas, right? Be fresh about it. And then institutionalizing this commitment to, full-time classified hires, because I think there was something mentioned that there wasn't a classified member represented as part of the multidisciplinary team that is going to spearhead professional development around classified interests and growth and advancement, because all of the colleges, I believe deserve really good trained student workers and advancement, because they're going to be coming back to work for you. So I think that's about it. I just welcome your feedback with Dr. Brown, Inger Stark, and myself for future next steps. Thank you.
I just want to make a point to the board. We started and launched on February the 1st. And just in the month of February, we had 160 individuals, separate individuals that went through training. So the ask is, and I will tell you, I've already been approached by Dr. Diane Van Hook, who spearheads this IEPI process, and Dr. Matthew Lee, they were here yesterday, is what is the board's commitment toward continuing this? Because we started it and spearheaded it using the $200,000, and based upon a contractual agreement that we had with Dr. Brown to move forward with this and launch. I believe Dr. Brown is looking at retiring at the end of this month. We would like, and we're working on the budget right now, to have someone in place to continue this. The worst thing that can happen, it started with Dr. Jackson. Yes, she pushed it forward. Yes, she got the grant. Oh, Dr. Jackson is gone. Oops, what happened to the program? Oops, there's no institutional commitment to continue. And then we have another failed program. So I think I'm doing the ask because Dr. Brown is not able to be here. And that was something that they wanted the board to know, that to continue this process is going to take someone to actually coordinate with the advisory committee, to put together the training records, to contact individuals external, to have a budget to hire someone to come to do things. And so I'm putting forward the ask for her. It doesn't have to be a decision that's made tonight or today, but we will be coming back to you in the form of a proposal for the budget once I get the feedback from the advisory committee. So
VP Quinlan.
Yes, thank you for your presentation, and thank the committee for their work. Right now, I would classify this thing as a bright, shiny thing. It looks really good. What I would like to see, following up on Dr. Jackson's comments, is somehow an extension over a 3 to 5 year period of commitment to this program, so that it is a bright, shiny thing in 3 years and bright, shiny thing in 5 years, so that it's ongoing. I mean, those of us who have been at Peralta for a while have seen a lot of really good ideas come in, but because they didn't have a long-term plan in place when they came in, somehow they fell by the wayside. A crisis came up or something like that. And I don't think we want to operate that way anymore. No. So that's the first thing, is an idea of how much it would cost to fund this. And then once we figure that out, where we're going to find that money in the budget. Yeah. My feeling is if there's something that you support, if you can't find the line item in the budget that supports that, you're not really supporting it. The second thing is I would actually like this program to go a little bit further. My feeling is that when we spend money on employees and their training, we're not spending money, we're investing in our organization, and we're investing in our people. I would like to see something where our classified staff have access to programs outside of Peralta, at a Cal State Hayward, or a UC Extension, anywhere where they can take accounting and finance classes and planning classes, management classes, so that when opportunities open up in administration, the people that are deeply committed to Peralta, the people that understand its problems, can move into those positions and be effective managers, as opposed to, it seems like in the community college system in general, we have managers that hopscotch from one college to another to go up the scale. I would like us to grow our own managers, people that, again, have the commitment, understand our problems, and that we can invest in and make a longer term commitment to them. I think that's going to improve morale, it's going to improve efficiency, and it's going to improve organization. So those are my 2 comments.
Thank you. Trustee Gonzalez Brito.
Thank you, President Polk. Thank you for your presentation. Where'd she go?
It's been a
She
late
left.
night, so
Well, I really appreciate the presentation, and it's really exciting to see this kind of program put together for staff and faculty and administrators. My question was, and maybe it can't be answered because she's not here. Actually, I really support Trustee Quinlan's comment about outside professional development for classified employees. And I was wondering if we could get a sense of the 160 that participated in February, how many were classified and how many were faculty?
I don't have the breakdown, but
Okay.
based upon my conversation with Dr. Brown, most of them, probably 90% of them were classified professionals. And I do want to thank Maria left before I could do this, but the tri-chair made up of faculty member Dr. Inger Stark, administrator Dr. Stephanie Droker, and classified professional Maria Spencer, who you just heard, really took the bulls by the horn, or whatever that term is. I just finished talking. Stop laughing, Trustee Quinlan. I'm gonna stop. Basically, they jump-started this. I wrote the grant. It went forward. I convinced the presidents we needed to do this. They submitted theirs. We submitted them. They were all accepted, $200,000 for each of the campuses. We all had the same idea, but a little bit of twist based upon the culture of the campuses. But that's how we launched it this year. But again, that can't be sustained. So we are looking at some options. It, like you said, it's an investment in our own staff. And we've had people that have been here. Maria's been here 16 years, something like that. So it's not that people are bouncing around to every college. You know, I know that sometimes there's sentiment that, well, if we train them, then they're going to leave and go somewhere else. But then they also might come back. So thank you.
Good.
I'm wondering if we can get a sense at some point about, I heard in the report earlier about classified employees wanting their own flex days, or maybe it was in the presentation here, but just if there's any barriers to participation for classified employees to be able to monitor that as it goes and be able to hear some reports on that.
Yeah, some of it is a negotiated item because it's not in the contract with the SEIU, but you did hear Roberto, who is representing, even though he's also in SEIU, he's also representing the District Classified Senate, DCS, and they're looking at that also. But with anything, there's always that price tag. So we already have flex days. What the calendar that you saw up there is every day. And so it's not just we have a special flex day. You have a flex day every day that we offer courses as long as you get participation from your administrator. And the administrators knew about this. They've been brought along the way. So there's no administrator saying, no, you can't go to that training, because it's going to help their staff do a better job and be more efficient. So the grow your own, you know, I tell them, look at me. I started out as a classified professional. If you had told me I'd be a chancellor of a 4-college district, I would have said, you're crazy. All I want to do is make enough money to buy a house. That was my goal. So when they see somebody that has come from within their own ranks, they know it's possible for them. And we have some extremely bright. I think Maria has her master's degree. She didn't say that, you know, but we have some very talented people and we don't always use them, you know, sometimes all it takes is an ask.
Thank you. I believe Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen also has a question.
It's more of a comment than a question. First of all, I want to associate myself with every comment that raises up the value of classified workers in our district. I want to associate myself with that because it's just so obvious that that our classified workers often are the most knowledgeable in many areas, have the most expertise, have the longest tenure, the deepest history. And so I think everything that we can do to support classified workers, both in improving their skills, but also in participating in high-level decision-making. And that means not only doing reassigned time, et cetera, for various shared governance tasks, but also then appropriately compensating for that work. I think it's a well-known problem that administrators come and go. And this isn't a hit on administrators. It's just part of the way that the California Community College system works. Having longstanding administrators stick around in a district is a problem for virtually every district in the state. And so I think to the extent that we really tap into that expertise and promote it and compensate it, as Trustee Quinlan said, it's an investment in our own competence. I want to note that Maria Spencer herself was part of a really important initiative that Chancellor Laguerre initiated, which was the Management Leadership Development Academy. Kind of looking around, picking out the best and the brightest, providing them with opportunities, mentoring, and support. And I think Maria was in that program in maybe 2016, something along those lines. And it really paid off really well. Chancellor Jackson, I think your example of yourself is really important. Starting as a classified worker, I teach in a district where our Vice President of Instruction, Christina Espinosa-Peeb, she was 2 years, our interim president. She started out as a classified worker also, served many years in classified service, and then worked her way up. It's a no-brainer here. I think the one thing that we do need to be thoughtful of then is figuring out how do we coordinate this initiative with the campus-based classified and faculty development programs, with sabbatical program, et cetera, so that we're really working as one whole institution with variations across the campuses that complement and don't compete. So I think as long as we can do all of those things, this is brilliant, and thank you for the presentation.
Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen, I just wanted to mention, I really, what you said about integrating, making sure that the campus, what's happening with the campuses in the district is seamless. One of the benefits of having Ingrid Stark is she is our district professional development coordinator for faculty, and she is connected with each of the professional development committees at the campuses and their coordinators. So on the faculty side, we have that. I think it's where the classified professionals that we have some room for growth in making sure that that is integrated.
And that's an endemic problem in our society, that we undervalue working people and the least paid working people. So thank you for pointing that out. And I think, you know, classified President Gonzalez bringing that up earlier was an important beginning of this conversation. So let us, in fact, continue this. Thank you.
Thank you. And just one last point. It's really important that that the way they are promoting through our classified professionals, and I'm going to say it, it's an equity issue. Our faculty have a pathway to administration and to leadership positions, and our classified professionals, it's a much harder, as the chancellor knows, or depending on the individual mentor you might have, you might be able to get there. And so I just really want to congratulate everyone here at Peralta, the chancellor, for taking this on, and the colleges for picking it up with hopefully developing a sustainable way of doing this so that our classified professionals can be our next chancellor. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? Okay. Right, we are skipping 4.1 to bring back to the next meeting. So now I believe it is time for the consent calendar minus 7.2, which we pulled at the beginning of the meeting. May I hear a motion, please? Thank you, Trustee Reese. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Withrow. Roll call.
Student trustee Hogan,
Yes.
student trustee Latino,
Yes.
trustee Withrow,
Yes.
trustee Johannes,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Yuan,
Yes.
trustee Napoli Bellarice,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Brito,
Yes.
trustee Quinlan,
Yes.
trustee Delphine Polk.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and start our action items with 7.2.
So
is-
I have
go ahead,
asked-
Chancellor.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I was just gonna read it out, but go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'll wait till you.
Yeah. So 7.2 is consider approval of amendment number 2 to the design build agreement with Gilbane, I believe that's how you pronounce it, building company for the Laney College Central Utility Plant Project.
So I was gonna ask IVC Smith if she could address this. She has all the background. I have periphery information on it, but she may have some specific details that you can address. So, Adria?
Sure. Thank you, Chancellor Jackson, and thank you, Board of Trustees. When we approached and began this project, it was a design build project. And the reason to enter into a design build project is to mitigate change orders and confusion between the architect and the contractor, and for us to work together with the architect and the contractor. We started this project in 7/2020, and it was then approved in 4/2021. Since then, there were two parts to this project. One, the design portion, that was the first approval. And the second portion of this was the installation of this project. The design portion went to DSA. And as Chancellor Jackson mentioned, when it went into DSA, we found out that there were a number of unaddressed issues in DSA, uncertified projects, and we had to go back, recertify those projects, get them signed off, do all the research, and so we can get all of our other Laney projects moving. This is the first project that we're able to move forward with out of DSA. So that is the first part of this. The second part of it, again, is the installation piece of it. So what you are seeing is the delay that we had to do for the research and also escalation. Also, the additional cost to this project, DSA has requested, well, not requested, but we have had to add to this project a part 3, which is to do an ADA assessment path. Well, to do a path of travel from the Laney parking lot onto the campus. So we are not only designing, but putting in a new pathway for ADA. So that is everything that you see, all the escalation, the additional part of this project, the delays in certification. That's why we are where we are at right now. Thank you.
That was very, very helpful. Thank you. I guess my clarifying questions are just that, so you had the very first amendment number 1, or the very first contract that we approved was only for projects 1 and 2, right?
The initial portion of that was for us to start with the design portion. Once the design portion was done, we're going to bid it out and come back with the full project. But again, because of the delays, the time delays, the escalation, and the additional portion, part 3 of this project, that has also increased the cost.
So we're no longer at the total maximum, which was originally 12 million, but now we're at 13.7. But the 13.7 though doesn't include the new possible DSA future price, or I think GSA future price for building AA, right? That was so, and I think that that's why I was a little confused as I kept reading this over and over again. I was going down this rabbit hole and I wasn't sure what I was reading. And so it talks about building AA, which was previously 1.4.
1.4 was the design portion. So this is an all-inclusive price, to my understanding. This is an all-inclusive price at this point that will do, again, the first part was designed only for the architect. The second part was intended to then launch the project where they would do all of the site work first before installing the new boilers and the new equipment. And the third part that was then added on to this is the ADA, path of travel.
Right. So if the 12 million was our original maximum, but now we're at 13.7, which is our new maximum, but we're trying to approve. But there's a possibility though, that building AA will come back with a new cost. So we're probably going to go over the 13.7. Do we know that?
Not to my understanding. We are trying to work backwards to try to bring the costs down. This is our maximum estimate at this point to try to work as efficiently as possible with the design builder to bring the costs down. If we can achieve savings, we will do so. But right now, this is the maximum price of the entire project.
And does this have anything to do with our heater situation?
That this is it. Yes.
So
This
please
is
connect that
it.
dot for the community and for us.
Sure.
Please tell us more.
This is that dot that we were talking about, that we have the boiler, we have the equipment, we have the approval, or we have the approval for the site plan because we've done those 25 years of backlog paperwork. This is that project.
We were looking for this project to be instituted months ago. As you see, it is what they're requesting an extension of 577 days to this project. Also, we're working with Swinnerton and the design builder to see how we can expedite it as quickly as possible. So we're not having this conversation next winter.
So Chancellor, can I just add one more thing, Chancellor, if I may? I think part of it is, like, I had to make that connection in a weird kind of bizarre way, but it's really important that our community knows whatever you can communicate to the community, what these holdups are. And maybe even, for example, in the summary, it would have been really good to actually talk about the importance of this particular project related to the heating situation. And I think that we have to ensure that we communicate that narrative, because when there is as we all know, when there's a void in the story or the narrative, all kinds of other scenarios are created by individuals, and we just want to be as clear as possible. So thank you for letting me know that this is what this is.
And I will say that we did send out, I believe it went under my signature, not yours, Mark, regarding the issues, I think in the fall, because that's when we were told by DSA that we had to address those 25 years of documents. But that was, you're right, that was once. And sometimes we need to keep reminding people, remember, this is that same project. Hey, this is that same project that we've been ready to go. And we are looking at, in fact, I met with IVC Smith with our construction management team. And they cut the back on some of the time. So what she gave you was the worst case that they're saying. They said, well, we might be able to do it in this amount of time if we get going now, and if the weather doesn't get too bad, and if we can, so we're looking at trying to reduce that max cost down. But it wasn't for lack of trying. It was really DSA added the pathway. And so they're not going to approve it until we do. And so we couldn't foresee that. And then the other thing was the site and not having the paperwork done. So.
Also, I'd like to add that we also bought the equipment ahead of time. So we're not going to be waiting for the equipment. We have the equipment. It's a matter of now the project just getting going and moving forward. So that was also something we came to the board. You approved the purchase of the equipment ahead of time so that we would not be affected so severely at this point by the supply chain.
Thank you. Trustee Johannes?
Thank you for the clarification, but I do have another clarification, sort of a clarifying question regarding the design team's certification, and you said also recertification. I just wanted to understand, were they originally bypassed or overlooked, or was there a delay? The delay so much that they had to recertify, only because we have the design team on this again, and this may happen again.
Okay. So there's two separate issues that are going on. All of our projects for Laney were being held because we did not certify, the district did not certify projects 25 years ago. So we had to recertify those 25-year-old projects before we moved forward with any new project.
Thank you. And you had to search for those 25-year-old, which ones you actually had to recertify and figure out. Got it.
Hunt down the architect, find the people who worked on them, have them sign off. Some people did not want to sign off. That was a whole other issue. So we had to hire other architects to sign off on their work. So it was quite,
Okay.
it's
I see how
quite
that's
a-
expensive. Yeah, okay, thank you.
VP Quinlan?
So my question is, are all the DSA holds off now?
The DSA holds on the certifications are off now. There are a couple of other things that we're addressing right now with DSA, which is the fire alarm system.
Oh, so
But
is
it's
that,
not holding this?
but that's not holding this, but it's holding our other projects.
Yes, and the fire alarm system will be resolved in probably 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Trustee Gonzalez, Yuan?
Thank you so much for the clarification. And as Trustee Napoli Bellarice said, that clarification is really important as part of the kind of public understanding of what's going on. And now I've got a question for that came up from what Chancellor Jackson said, that when we went to get the project approved, it turned out that we had missed, or we had not updated reporting for many years. So we had to go back and do some back reporting. So here's my question. Was that absence of reporting something that we should have been doing, that there was something in our system that we missed? Or was it just, nah, it wasn't something we really needed to have been doing before, and it was only when we went to do this particular update that we then needed to do it, but that there wasn't some routine process that we were overlooking? Do you understand the question? Because I asked earlier, what is it systemically that's missing? And I know, Etheria, you've been, excuse me, Vice Chancellor Smith, you've been in general services a long time, so you know kind of all the history there. You've been there to watch it. If anybody would know what was happening there right now, it'd probably be you. Was there something that we missed that just was like, we didn't have the capacity to get to it, or it was overlooked, or there was something systemic that we should have been doing? You following where I'm going here?
Absolutely. So
Thank you.
The projects that were not signed off on are 25 years old. It is not something that occurred recently. They were 25 years old. There's also an ADA project that the district needed to do, which I believe was the 10-year-old reference. And we're doing that now. So, but the ones that need to be signed off are over 25 years old. So that's before my time. That's before anybody's time here.
So there was something we missed 25 years ago, but it wasn't some ongoing thing, like every year we're missing some piece. It was, all right.
No, we're up to.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, we're up to date on our certifications, but like you said, this particular project triggered DSA to go back and look at that site and say, you haven't certified the last thing that was done on this site. And oh, by the way, that's 25 years old. And you're going to have to do that before we're going to let you move forward with this. So it's a combination. It wasn't something that we weren't doing. We didn't do it at that particular time, 25 years ago, which none of us were here in the seats we're in now. So I can't speculate as to why that didn't happen. But, you know, DSA is just like us. They're people, and they have their pet projects and their pet colleges and their pet people that they like to deal with, like everybody else. So if I bring in something, it may not get the same degree of scrutiny as if it comes from College of Marin, because they're in our region. Simply because we're Peralta, we sometimes get additional scrutiny simply because of who we are. And I'm just being candid with you on that. But it's not always negative. Sometimes it's positive, like, you know, let me help you guys out here. I know you've been struggling with this. We're going to give you an extension. And that was what we were able to do, because they could have locked everything down and said, you're not going forward at all. You're not going to continue with the architectural designs. You're not going to, you know, do any of that. They did not. They worked with us. So I don't want them to come across as the bad guys. But 25 years ago, someone didn't do something, and it triggered them to go back and look at their records and say, oh, by the way, you guys are supposed to get this certified and you never did. And so that's where we are. But no, there is nothing systemic that we aren't doing, Trustee Ewing. I think this was an anomaly. But I think because of, you know, ordering it early, now that we've gotten through that, we don't have to wait and say, oh, okay, board, we're coming to you to order it. And now it's going to be delayed another several months because we don't have it on site. So.
Oh, go ahead, Trustee Gonzalez Brito.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad you connected the dots on the heating, and it seems like a real priority project. My question is, back to Trustee Gonzalez Ewan's point. I have two questions actually. Dating back, so it says here in the written documents that there was projects that were not closed and certified by DSA, projects plural, and some dating back as far as 27 years ago. So I'm just wondering how many and how over those 27 years were not certified. So that's one question. And just to be able to understand, you know, what's gone and how, maybe when was the most recent non-certification that happened? And then my other question is, it looks like May 29th, 2024 is the completion date. Is that right? If and I'm just, because I heard, and maybe I misunderstood, that we have heating for the winter, but if the completion date on here is until May 2024, is it being phased in? And so the heating will be done sooner?
Right now, we're working off of the existing boilers. Though the existing boilers were supposed to be removed at this time and the new boilers put in, we had to pivot and rework what we had, fix them, get parts, and have them operational to heat the campus at this time. So that's why the campus is, we have heat at the campus, but once this project is completed, we'll have a new central plant unit. So, and continuous heat. We're looking to update and push and expedite as quickly as we can to get the heat on for next winter as soon as possible. So your other question, let me go back. There were a number of projects, but they were 26, 27, 25 years old. So there were a few projects. And also DSA wanted us to address the ADA issue of a path of travel from the parking lot to the campus. So this was their time where they could then assert that request. So all of it came at one time. We've addressed it and we're moving forward.
Okay, go ahead, VP Quinlan.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Withrow. Let's go ahead and do roll call.
Student trustee Hogan,
Yes.
student trustee Latino,
Yes.
trustee Withrow,
Yes.
trustee Johannes,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Yuan,
Yes.
trustee Napoli Bellarice,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Brito,
Yes.
trustee Quinlan,
Yes.
trustee Delphine Polk.
Yes,
Motion passes.
great. Thank you very much. Now we will move to 9.1, consider approval of BP 2431. This is a second reading and the update on the chancellor search. I'll hand it over to you, Chancellor Jackson.
So with the approval of the board, if I'd like to cover all three of these items because I think they logically go together rather than taking a motion on one.
Yep, that makes sense.
Okay, so the first one in your packet is what Dr. Moore was discussing in terms of the board policy going through the shared governance or the participatory governance process. Board policy 2431 is having its second reading. It was presented by Dr. Cindy Miles at our meeting in January. The board made a preliminary approval of that. That was at our retreat. The board made a preliminary approval and then they brought it back for the first real reading. She wanted to make sure that we captured everything that was there. We did so. We took it to the PGC. We were notified that the timetable was out of sync. And so the PFT asserted its right to have a 30 working day review. During that time, the presidents took it back to their participatory governance bodies. We went to the managers' meetings. We talked about it at the district level, the college level, and then it came back to PGC. We went through that. We had a special meeting on the 10th of this month. And the document that you see in your packet that says PGC final is the recommendation that is coming to you from the PGC. The areas that they made changes to are highlighted. And at the bottom of that document is a clean version. So you see the one with the highlights, that's the areas that they made changes to. The first one was whenever possible that we would have a face-to-face public forums. The other one was consolidating the classified professional appointment rather than saying 3 classified professionals and 1 confidential. It said 4 classified professional, 1 being a confidential employee. The other change was probably the biggest change, which is reducing the number of board trustee members from 3 to 1, and then making that individual an advisory vote rather than a voting member of the body. And then the last change was changing the site visits from a may back to a shall. They were a shall before. We did not go through with that, and we were doing our last permanent hire. So the PGC wanted to re-implement that and make it a shall, and that it would be after the forums. And it's up to the board. It's a recommendation from PGC and open for discussion.
Trustee Reese?
I'm just going to go through my opinion on the changes as I see them. So for the very first one, for A, including whenever possible, all public forums will be conducted in person. That sounds perfect. That sounds good. I do like the reframing of the 4 classified employees by saying 3, 1 will be a confidential. So I think that's because all of our confidential employees are always classified staff, right? So that seems absolutely perfect and succinct. I do go back again to the conversation that we had with Cindy Miles and Helen Benjamin about the 3 trustees. And I think that it's important that we stay with 3 trustees and that it should not be 1 nor 2, and that those votes should not be advisory. So I hold true to the original policy that we went over with Cindy and Helen, that went with 3 members that are regular votes, 3 trustees. And then the last item on the bottom, and we had a very long conversation about this particular issue, the site visits. And if we all remember correctly, that conversation had to do with what is the intent of the site visit? And is there a way to get to what it is people are trying to get at in a site visit in other more effective ways? I think that was a conversation we had. In addition, the other conversation we had was, what if we have a candidate who's outside of California? Then how do we actually proceed in that particular way, creating a site visit? And so the movement, after much discussion, from shall, which would be a must, to may, is really important as a matter of board policy, because it allows us to do it if we see fit, and it also allows us to be prudent about wherever that candidate is from. So I don't know if I'm clear about those 4 different modifications that I'm seeing in their final policy.
Thank you, Trustee Reese. VP Quinlan?
So I would argue for I think either 2 or 3 trustees is fine, but I would argue for them to stay in the advisory role. I think having 3 trustees as a part of that committee, we're 1 vote away from a majority right there. Basically, 3 people in that committee can make a decision, and they have to just convince 1 other person on the board. And that's, I think that defeats the whole purpose of a screening committee and presenting a list or a roster of candidates to the board to consider as a whole. I think the advisory position is good. I think I would actually prefer 2, but 3 trustees as an advisory vote, because our different trustees have many different experiences that they would bring to the conversation. And I think not having more than 1 voice there would be important to bring those different perspectives, the different roles of the board, the different views people have, their different experiences with chancellors. I think having more than 1 person there is important, and either 2 or 3, I think, would be fine, as long as they're still in an advisory role. And then the last one, I had several conversations with Senate presidents around this issue, and I understand their reasoning and the committee's reasoning for the shall instead of, they will instead of shall. And I support that change also.
Thank you, Trustee Johannes.
Okay. Regarding the amount of trustees on the team, I would think 3 is a bit overbearing, as there's only 7 of us. That's like 45% of the board just on the team, which can seem a little daunting or can seem a bit overwhelming to the other members. I would definitely go with 2 versus 1 as well, as Trustee Quinlan said. I'm still on the fence regarding advisory versus an actual vote. And because I'm hoping for 2, then I can't say that there 2 can be 1 vote, because you saw what just happened with 3 and 3 for for the whole month. So I wouldn't say the 2 together can be 1 vote. So I'm still a little back and forth, but definitely 2.
Thank you, colleagues. Any other questions or comments around this?
I have my hand up,
Oh,
President.
go ahead, Nikki.
Thank you. I'm normally extremely solicitous to such strong recommendations from shared governance bodies. I think the consultation, and this is no criticism of our board officers, but I think that the consultation that they had with the 2 of you in some ways left them without a proper understanding of the challenges that we as a board have faced in past hires. I think I've now been part of 4 or 5 chancellor hires. And my experience has been that the board is often lacking when we are presented with candidates, we're lacking a full understanding of what the community thinks because we weren't part of the process. We simply get the candidates. We don't even know who else was there. And I think that's actually a real problem. And I think that the absence of sort of a back and forth dialogue within that process where the search committee understands the needs of the board is actually really critical. So I'm actually less concerned with whether we get a vote or not. Like, frankly, if we had 3 trustees with advisory votes, I mean, if the committee in its wisdom decided to ignore those 3 advisory votes and just, I don't know that the board members would be unified in their votes in any case, but if they decided to ignore it, I think, all right, so they ignore it. And, but what we would have is a cross-section of the board represented. And what we just saw in our last, selection process with our new colleague was that we weren't all of one mind, but that it was important in that process to recognize that we had differences. If we only have 1 or 2 members serving on that committee, we will have the possibility that the board president simply won't be able to appoint a representative group. Now, right now, we're pretty unified, notwithstanding our last challenge. In general, we vote 7-0, 6-0. We're relatively unified, but that's not always the case. And we need to make a policy that gives the board president, doesn't lock the board president into having to choose, make favorites, and then be in the position of having her colleagues say, well, wait a second, why didn't you appoint people from that block of the board? So while I am not wed to the idea that a board representative on that committee must have a binding vote, I am really committed to the idea that there be 3 of us there, so that in fact we really do get full consultation and we're not reliant on the one person who would come back or the consultant, because frankly the board has not gotten full information from consultants in the past. We've been left in the cold, and that has not served this district at all. So we need to change how we do things. This is, I believe, our best effort at changing. The other thing is, I think maybe we could, in the language about site visit, what if we said, instead of shall, we said should normally, so that there is a little bit more weight that is kind of what we should do normally, but that there might be some circumstances where the board in its wisdom, I hope we have wisdom in these choices, would say this doesn't make sense in this particular instance, but that normally we would do that. And that gives us some flexibility, but with an admonition that we really should normally be doing that. So those would be my thoughts on this.
Trustee Johannes and then Trustee Withrow.
So yeah, I actually, so I understand what you're saying, Trustee Yuan. With that being said, then I would rethink my opinion and say, I would still say with 2 trustees, again, because of the same reason I mentioned earlier, it being just a bit much for the other people on the committee, members of the committee, but 2 trustees with a vote. And I'm saying mostly with a vote because number 1, our trustees know exactly the strength, are more aware of the strengths and weaknesses and personality types that we already have on here and how we can mesh and work well together. I don't want to call it culture because that can be used in multiple different ways. And so to have that knowledge and be part of the original search committee is really, really helpful so that when we do have the set coming in, we don't have to, we can manage our time more wisely without having to go back and look at the original applicants or candidates. And I don't want to say that maybe the trustees, whoever is on the committee would be sort of disgruntled for not listening to their advisory note or things of that nature. I'm just saying it's more so about understanding how we're going to work well together. So I would go with 2 with a vote based on what you said, trustee UM, but I still think 3 is a bit much. And we might as well just be the whole committee on there.
Oh, I'm sorry, trustee Withrow, go ahead.
I agree that that we have the trustees that are on the board, whether it's 2 or 3. I kind of would go for 3, but that it be advisory for a number of reasons. I think that it's so important over what we do over the course of the next 6 to 9 months, 6 to 8 months, that we have 3 ears, eyes, and senses on that committee, so that we get a flavor of what their priorities are, what their logic is, and why they are recommending what they're recommending. But I think that for that very same reason, I would go with the idea that it would be advisory votes as opposed to a vote of 3 out of a large number, which really doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
These comments are all very, very helpful. You know, one of the things that I would say, and I'll call our attention to what the old board policy had said. And the old original board policy had 0 trustees on there, but it had a clause that was also inserted that actually said that we could, if a board is desirous, and I'm paraphrasing here, if a board is desirous, they can go back to the pool and just pluck out whatever was not recommended. And so again, bringing us to the conversation with Cindy Miles and Helen Benjamin, what we were trying to do was actually be much more transparent. And that's why we changed it so that we put the trustees there. So there wasn't this plucking and bypassing the whole governance kind of process. Secondly, if I can call our attention to what Helen and Cindy made very clear, this is the board's hire. This is the board's hire. And if it's the board's hire, then we need to be in those spaces and places because it does go through the stakeholder input and the feedback, but this is the board's hire. And so when we talk about 3 almost being 4, let me just also underscore that 3 is still not 4, according to the Brown Act. And advisory or not advisory or overwhelming or not overwhelming. Let me underscore again, this is the board's hire, and we have to just be clear about that. This is the board's hire. I do like the idea of should normally. I think I like that idea. Although before we go and visit that, I would probably want to see what Natasha thinks as it relates to should normally. It sounds like it does give more weight to what we're trying to do, given particular exceptions. However, I just don't know how that actually would be read in terms of legalese. So, but let me just say, this is the board's hire.
I would agree with you, trustee Reese. I am leaning towards 3 with an advisory vote. So I think the point of it, and I went through a chancellor search right as I got elected. And the point of it was, I think within a few months, if I'm not mistaken. And what I felt like in that process, and I've shared this with multiple stakeholders and some of you, is that I felt very much left out of that process. That we got the candidates through the search, and I didn't feel like I had enough information to make an informed decision at that time. So it's been a few years. We're going through another chancellor search, but I just want to reemphasize that there is a lot at stake for this district with this hire. And I do want to reemphasize what Cindy was saying, trustee Reese, is that this is our hire. this is our one and very, very prioritized responsibility. We have one employee that we manage, and that is the chancellor. And if, we need to make sure that we're getting the information that we need to make a very, very informed decision. And so I am leaning towards 3 trustees with an advisory vote. Trustee Gonzalez Brito and then VP Quinlan.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the overall makeup of the committee. The trustees with 3 would not make up any more. You have 3 community members, 4 faculty, 4 classified. It doesn't feel like it would be an overwhelming presence by the board of trustees if we had 3. And I think people hear such different things and pick and bring their own experience and expertise and can pick up different pieces that would be just something really knowledgeable for all of us to be able to have that. And I would say advisory. I think that's another way just to make sure we're not stepping on that process.
Thank you. VP Quinlan. There you go.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the document that came out of the PGC on Friday, with the change that instead of 1 advisory vote, we have 3 advisory votes. And I still like the shall authorize a visit, and so that's the motion. And just the reason for the shall, I think it's more important that if it is out of state candidate, that we understand and talk to people on that campus, people they've worked with, because a person out of state is not going to have the same experience with our shared governance model that we use in California. So we have to have a real good understanding of how amenable that person is going to be to working in a shared governance model. And I think only by some type of deep conversations with people involved at all different levels of that out-of-state college will we grasp whether that person actually has that personality or traits that would be amenable to a shared governance model.
Trustee Johannes.
So just to clear things up, the motion is for just the amount of trustees on the, because you mentioned 2 items.
Right, 3 shared
And then
advisory
plus the shall portion. So
plus the shall.
Second that
we're voting on
motion.
them together.
Pardon?
We can vote on them together. I know that Trustee Beast, you had a question for Natasha. Did we want to address that now?
Sure.
Before.
Or if she's around.
She
I
can.
don't think that she is on
Okay,
tonight.
no problem.
And I also have a rebuttal, but
Sure.
did you already get your question clarified? Because I don't want to overstep there.
Sure.
Only because
You wanna
I would
separate 'em?
agree with one and disagree with the other, and I don't want to just say no, like no yes to a bundle of things.
I agree. I think maybe it might be better to actually disentangle them, I think.
I would agree.
But I also have a response to what you just said, Trustee Quinlan. A couple things. I think that, again, pointing back to that conversation, there is a financial cost to potentially having a group go to another state. And there's also the reality that when you go to that other state, let's say AB 1725 or the shared governance process, participatory governance process, one wonders whether one can actually get a sense of how that particular candidate governed there through that. If they have different laws, if they don't even have the idea of AB 1725, what I'm trying to get at is it's very easy to have a performative visit, performative on the part of the candidate in that particular area. And or who knows, with particular colleges, they may not look very keenly upon people coming to visit and asking them questions. So there are multiple variations. And so having a verb that actually doesn't force us or compel us to break our policy because of our candidate or where our candidate's from gives us allows us the ability to be more flexible. And that's why I keep going back to what Trustee Gonzalez UN had said, which might be good, but I'm a little leery to put something in there that could be misconstrued or differently from our intent at the dais. So
If I'm
know-
hearing you correctly, trustee Reese, you're saying you don't want to exclude a site visit, but don't want to make it.
And I think may actually doesn't exclude,
Right.
but it doesn't also mandate that we do that or
Right.
break our policy if we cannot. Right?
Right, okay.
Madam President, I just wanted to make a quick order. I've been texting Natasha and I'm asking her to come on. So if you just give her a moment, she can answer whatever questions you may have.
That would be great. Thank you, Sasha.
No problem.
Madam President.
Clarification.
Is there any, yeah, go ahead, Chancellor.
Was there a second to the motion or has it died for lack of
Colleagues,
second?
can we go ahead, Chancellor?
I just had a point of clarification. The motion that was made, I didn't know if there was a second. So
I think trustee Withrow
Oh,
seconded
okay.
that.
All right, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we're in the discussion portion right now. And then we're gonna go ahead and wait for Natasha. Nikki, did you have something to add?
Well, what I was gonna suggest is that while we're waiting for Natasha, we could in fact separate this out. If we withdrew the motion, then we could separate it out and vote on each piece of it. It seems as though we are reaching consensus on 3 advisory and the question of consolidating classified employees. If we could vote on those components of it, then we would have the last part remaining, which is the shall versus should normally versus may.
Yeah. VP Quinlan, you submitted the motion.
So I'll withdraw the motion. I have a second question and either the chancellor or Natasha may be able to answer this. Trustee Reese and I were having a brief conversation is what happens if we're visiting a state that we have travel bans on? Basically, we would have to violate our own board policy to go there. So I think the second language that trustee yes, Nikki, yes. Nikki would be more in line in case we do have to visit a state that we have a travel ban on, that we have a way out of that.
Thank you. I've been told that Natasha is on. So trustee Reese, if you want to repeat your question for Natasha, please.
Hi, Natasha. Sorry to bother you. Are you around?
No, good evening, trustees.
So we're revisiting the policy that we had a discussion about, and we are at the very bottom referring to the site visit. And in Helen and Cindy's modification, we had changed it from shall to may. And we're looking at the possibilities of should normally as the compromise instead of going to may. And we just wanted to verify whether that was acceptable and or are there other interpretations in the legal world that could be different from our intention here at the dais. And our intention here at the dais is we should do it normally, but if we can't, we can't.
Right. Thank you, trustees. So under the law, may is permissive and shall is a mandate, right? So anything that says a may means you can, and if you're putting something in your policy, it's can and should, right? But if it says shall, then you have no choice. And, you know, having supported a number of districts, a shall for a site visit has plenty of opportunities to put yourselves in a place where you have no choice but to violate. You can have like it works really well when you think of an idyllic search that results in many wonderful candidates from awesome districts and you can choose where to go, but there are many searches that don't result in that. You could have candidates that don't have a site to visit. You can have candidates for whom the timeline between the negotiation of the matter and your ability to appoint them is so time sensitive that the actual doing a visit isn't possible or you'll lose the candidate. There are so many factors that could force the board into a position of needing or wanting to violate the policy that the shall language can be very restrictive in that place. Plus, you know, shall site visits are, you know, pretty antiquated at this point. So it may be something that as the district continues to move forward and recruitment and itself evolves, you may see different ideas and different opportunities that allow for the same type of information that we usually use as a guiding tool from a site visit. So may is a language that permits the board to make that determination and make it fit the search that you're doing in the time that you're doing it. Shall is a mandate that provides you no flexibility. I hope that answered the question.
Clarify.
Cindy, go ahead.
Or actually, Nikki, you were the bearer of that recommendation, so do you
Sure.
want to clarify? Or ask
So
a question?
council, here's the question. Not shall, not may, but if we use the language of should normally. So a site visit should normally take place, or whatever the language is. It gives us the presumption that we will do it, but it allows us not to do it. And the question that Trustee Napoli-Abella-Reese raised was, does that raise some additional legal or ed code or labor code violation possibilities that we're not foreseeing right now? So you, in your legal wisdom, can you opine on this question?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, trustee. I mean, should normally would be considered what we call vague contractual language, right? We don't tend to use something like normal because normal is a subjective term that what's normal to you or in that moment could be defined by many people differently. And so what would constitute the circumstances for abnormal? You know, what I hear you trying to draft is language that says, you know, the board should, where it can, do site visits, right? And if you can't, then you don't. And like, but, and not to say that I'm not making a recommendation to draft it that way, but that's what you're trying to get to is you want to do it if the circumstances support doing that, right? And to try to draft all of that as opposed to a really clear word like may is a beautiful word because the board has to then make a determination. And then in your wisdom as a board acting through your majority collective, that will force you to consider all of the factors that is impossible to sometimes legislate.
Thank you. That is very, very helpful. Thank you. So it doesn't sound like may precludes us from doing a site visit. I just want to be really, really clear on that.
Does it sound like? Sorry, did I hear you correctly? Was the question, does may sound like it precludes us from doing?
It does
site-
not.
It does not. It does not. Right.
I just want to clarify that for like leaving may in the language doesn't stop us from doing a site visit, correct? Okay. I want to make that super, super clear.
Absolutely correct, President. It does not preclude a site visit.
Great. Thank you very much, Natasha.
Thank you.
So we have a motion on the floor,
We
right?
do.
Can I?
You withdrew the
Did you
motion.
Oh.
So do you want to, I'm looking for another motion if we want to vote on the first part, which is the 3 trustees with an advisory vote.
So I'm not sure how we do this is chop the motion up. I mean,
Just make a motion.
so
all good.
I move that we approve 3 trustees with an advisory role.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, trustee Withrow.
Could I just, I'm sorry.
Sure.
I was just gonna try to reiterate what you were, I think what you were trying to do is
Sure.
that you would like to accept the recommendations that were put forward by the PGC with the exception of changing the 3,
1 to 3.
the 1 to 3
Advisory.
and going back to the original intent, which was to have the shall go to may.
We're separating those two.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
all right.
Trustee Gonzalez Brito, go ahead.
I just had a question. Are we approving, I think this is why it's hard to separate. Are we approving the whole proposal and the 3 or with the 3, but not because we have to approve the whole thing, right?
Yes. But what we're doing right now is separating them because we probably need to have more discussion on may versus shall versus something else.
Okay, so we're not approving, with the motion that's on the floor, we're not approving.
We're not approving
The
the
whole
entire document.
document.
We're just looking at the 3 trustees with the advisory vote, accepting the PGC's recommendation with the 3 trustees, not one, and then accepting that they're an advisory vote.
Yeah.
Just that one section. We are. Any discussion? Sorry, you weren't on the mic, Cindy.
Just, and this, I'm just gonna throw it out there because I want to make sure that we think about how we were doing the policy and we are okay with the possible scenarios and the possible implications. So as Trustee Gonzalez Brito had said, when we think about the number of trustees, max 3, it would be 1/6 of the 18, potentially maximum 18 people that are there. And if these are just wild scenarios, right? So if the 3 trustees are there and our votes don't count at all in a sorted situation, and none of the candidates that maybe those 3 trustees wanted end up going to the pool because they're advisory votes as opposed to not. Are we okay with that, given how much time and we're thinking potential communication of values that the 3 trustees from the dais are able to contribute feedback and give to that particular conversation? I'm just looking at all the possible scenarios so we understand that when we do an advisory vote, even though it's only 1/6 of the number of people that are there, and it probably won't even happen, but in a worst case scenario, that could happen because the votes don't count. So I just want us to be fully aware of the potential implication if we make an advisory vote.
Trustee Johannes?
I agree with you, Trustee Reese. That's exactly why I said possibly let's lower the number and add a vote. And at least at that point, it feels as though it's full shared governance. It's a separate committee versus us on the dais, just as you said. So at that point, it's technically shared governance for them to have a vote, for us, one of us to have a vote in that moment. That's how, just agreeing with you, but with my spin. Yeah.
So I guess I'm trying to get to the intent of why we would want both less and or not the number of votes, because if what we're trying to do is think about be too overwhelming, because I think that might be part of the idea that if there are 3 board members there, it's too overwhelming, it's too dominating. I would again, let us go to the fact that it's 1/6 out of 18 people. And then if it's, and this is, I think, the part where I just want to keep on pushing it because it's true. This is our hire. And so if our reason for being in the first committee is to kind of understand that role, because this is our hire, and being able to be in all the spaces and places so that we can get to a point where we hire our hire, then I'm not sure what we're, and I don't want to use the word afraid of, but I'm not sure why we're tiptoeing around here, because it's only 1/6 of the number of votes. But I just want us to understand the implication of an advisory vote if it goes in a different fashion. I just want us, and if you are all okay with that, then that's okay.
Okay, VP Quinlan and then Trustee Johannes.
So I think the reason for the advisory role and the trustees' participation in that committee is more to bring an understanding to that committee of what the board needs to see in a chancellor, and the experience we have with a chancellor, that we can bring that information to that committee. And because even though they've observed over a period of time that relationship, they don't deal with it on a regular basis like we do. So to bring that perspective to that committee, and again, we're going to vote, at the end. It's our hire at the end. But I think at that initial screening committee, I mean, they've clearly indicated they do not want us to have votes there, and I'm satisfied with that.
Trustee Johannes and then Trustee Gonzalez, you want? Okay, Trustee Gonzalez, you want then? Go ahead.
Thank you. So shall versus may. If we're gonna go with,
That's not what we're
May.
discussing right now, Nikki.
I realize that I've got 2 points I'm gonna make. And I'm trying to resolve that one because I think it might be doable, but if you want me to go back to the other one, I'm fine to do that. You want me to stay on
Yeah,
topic?
let's stay on this one and then we'll move. to
Okay.
the next issue.
Fine. So for me, the most important thing is that the board be able to hear the detailed and nuanced conversation among the various constituent groups. And because at the end of the day, we are going to vote, it is our hire, I'm less concerned about having a vote in that setting. I can't quite, I mean, maybe I can envision a situation where the votes are so close that one vote or two votes or three votes is going to shift. But if it's really that three trustees said, let's move this person forward, and the committee didn't do it, that would be really strange. Then we've got some really big disconnect between the committee and the board. And that will be communicated in board's closed session deliberations. And then we'll have to deal with that. But so I'm less committed to that we have a vote, but I am committed to the idea that we need three, because I think we need broad representation. I've not seen at Peralta a lot of shrinking violets who would be intimidated by trustees in the room. Like really, really, really. I see quite capable, outspoken professionals who have no problem holding their own in expressing a point of view, notwithstanding anything we might think. So I'm not worried about them being overwhelmed by us. I am concerned that they won't hear from us or understand us, and vice versa. So I'd like to stay with three. I'm fine with giving up a binding vote. I'm fine with an advisory vote. Now, may I make a suggestion on the language regarding shall versus may?
Trustee Johannes, do you have a question or?
Yeah, I just
Okay, go
wanted
ahead.
to make a note regarding what you just mentioned, Trustee Yuen. You said if those three, if we have three trustees and it suggests a candidate of sorts, and the committee doesn't take heed of sorts, that is assuming that all three would be on unified front of sorts, assuming all three have the same candidate in mind. And so
Well, that's exactly my point.
Right, but if we have three different trustees there with basically an advisory vote and they all three say someone different, I think it would make more sense at that point to have two with an actual vote, and you feel as though you're part of the process, versus three separate people who can choose who they want to listen to, or which person's point is most important. At that point, let's just vote and call it a day, versus having someone have to plead their case, three different cases to the 15 other people of sorts.
So if I can come back to my other thing, I think I can put language that will at least help us settle that one issue.
We're
Shall
still not
versus
there yet,
may.
Nikki. Trustee
Okay,
Johannes,
come back to me.
go ahead, Bill.
We're talking about three advisory votes, but we're talking 3 of 7 board members who are going to make the decision. And I have a question before I get into any of the thing.
Yeah.
From a legal standpoint, are the 3 advisory trustees on this thing, are they precluded from describing what went on in the process? Is there a legal constraint on that?
Yes, there is. There's the Brown Act constraints. So they won't be able to discuss it with us.
Afraid of that.
Yeah, unless it's an open session.
Yeah. And just to clarify, that's part of the training and why we need to make a decision. And I would just like the board to know, we do have individuals that want to speak to be appointed as community members.
Yes. Thank you, Chancellor, for letting us know about that. So colleagues, do we want to come to a decision on 3 with an advisory vote? Are we still good with that? Do you want to start with that? So why don't we do that? Thank you for that, Trustee Reese. Let's go ahead and talk to the community members and then we can come back to this issue.
Okay.
Thank you for letting us know, Chancellor.
Okay. I've been working with our executive director for marketing, communications, and public relations. And so I would ask if Mark Johnson would kind of give us a little bit of background, how we got here, number of applicants, and then we can bring in the applicants. We had them to speak just for 5 minutes. We did provide you with their information, with their curriculum vitae, as well as if they submitted a resume. We also provided, which went out with the public posting of the agenda, a matrix with the individuals' names on it. So I'll turn it over to Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor. An email went out to all of the candidates who had applied to participate in the community survey on Friday night and invited them to attend this meeting. And the last time I checked, we had 1 paper request to speak, but I don't know if that individual is here anymore. And I can't see Zoom right now, so I'm not sure if any of the candidates are dialed into Zoom.
There are no candidates on Zoom, and the person we have to speak is Alexandra Bertra, if they are here.
I don't see them here in the atrium.
I should note that we did not require any of the applicants to speak to the board. It was an option that we provided to them. And so the information on their background, their statement, as well as the city that they reside in was provided to the board. If we want to move forward with the process, this was recommended by our consultants, HSV, is that the board was provided a list of those candidates so that you could look at them prior to the board meeting. And that we would ask that you would identify your top 3, because we're looking at putting 3 individuals in. You would then tell us what your vote is on those individuals, who the name is of those top 3. We would keep track of that. Sasha would keep track of your votes, and whoever got the most votes, the top 3 of the most votes would then be placed. And then we would also ask if you would identify an alternate. So we should have 3 names from each of you on, and hopefully some of you will agree on who those individuals are. And then also ask you to identify with an A on your own ballot, as it were. But we'll take a verbal confirmation. We'll just go through like we normally do, with the board members reporting out. Just give us your top 3. We'll calculate those, and then we can make a decision, and then who you would want to have for an alternate. If there is a tie between any of the top 3, say that 4 people get 2 votes and others get 1 vote, and it's spread amongst it. If it's just 3, we'll take those. If it's out of the 13, each of you identifies a different person, although the likelihood of that is mathematically impossible. But just for sure, then we would have to have a revote and a recount until we get the 3 candidates. So it shouldn't take very long. And Sasha, are you ready to tabulate? And we'll assist. Dr. Joker and I will help in that process.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, who wants this? Go ahead, Trustee Rutho.
Lee Harris.
Okay.
Okay, your second choice?
I'm just going to stick with 1.
You don't.
We need 3, correct?
We need 3
total.
Go ahead.
Okay. Trustee Johannes, are you? ready
Give
to
me a second,
identify?
I'm finding my list.
Okay.
Give me a second.
VP Quinlan?
So I would submit Leilon Nguyen and Daniel Alvarado.
We need three, y'all.
We need three.
Then the third one would be Emily, what is it, Tenero Molina?
Thank you. Trustee Reese?
My three, not in any particular order, are Leilon, Sandra Nguyen, and Daniel Alvarado, and Alexandra Bertrand.
Thank you for your three. All good. Trustee Gonzalez Brito, do you have any choices?
Yeah, thank you. So Daniel Alvarado, Leyland Nguyen, and Alejandra Bertrand.
Trustee Gonzalez Yuan?
Thank you. My three are Leilon Nguyen, Daniel Alvarado, and Emily Tenorio Molina.
Thank you. Trustee Johannes?
Yes, I have Emily Tenorio Molina. Sorry, scrolling through in a second. Daniel Alvarado, and the third, sorry, Matthew Merzbacher. Merzvacher.
Thank you. Trustee Withrow?
Lee Harris, Ellen Switsky.
I am unable to hear him. I apologize.
You get closer to your mic though.
I'm sorry.
There you go.
Thank you, sir.
Lee Harris, Ellen Switzers, SWITKES, and Jack Asher.
Okay, my turn. Leilon Nguyen, Daniel Alvarado, and Alexandra Bertrand. Where does that leave us, Sasha?
We have the top candidates as Daniel Alvarado, Leilon Nguyen, and then a tie between Alexandra Bertrand and Emily Tenorio Molina.
So if we could get those two individuals that were a tie, and the other one would become the alternate because they were both tied.
Right. VP Quinlan?
So I have a question. How are the student representatives selected?
I don't have the VP, have the AP in front of me.
Okay.
Which is identified in that. I believe it's 4 candidates, so it would be going through, and again, I don't have it in front of me. It will be coming probably through the student body would make that decision on a candidate, 1 per campus.
Okay, so.
Okay, so we have a tie between Bertrand or Beltran and Medina. And so.
Molina.
Molina.
Sorry, Molina.
Okay.
It's a little late. Molina, so if we could just get a vote for one or the other, you don't have to give me a 1-2, 1-2, just who would you vote for? And then the other one obviously would be the alternate.
Should we? What?
Emily Molina. Emily Molina. You good there?
VP Quinlan?
Molina.
Molina is good, and then Alexandra Bertrand is the alternate. I'm fine with that. Okay. Where does that leave us, Sasha? I think it's 3, but
Yeah, yeah, Melina has 3 and there's still 3 and 3. But for
okay.
the second round of voting, nobody mentioned Bertrand, so I don't know if.
Trustee Withrow? There's a tie between Emily Molina and Alexandra Bertrand right now. And so we're looking at having one or the other as an alternate and the third.
Yeah, there, right now, Trustee Withrow, correct me if I'm wrong, Sasha, we have Wynn and we have Alvarado as the 2 candidates that will be moved forward as the appointees. And there was a tie between Beltran and Medina.
Correct. Yeah, Molina. Yes, you are correct.
I wrote down Medina, so I keep repeating it. My apologies.
It's all good.
I would suggest just starting from Trustee Withrow going down, because we now have 7 board members. We should be able to just go Molina or Bertrand, and then we should have an odd number out to beat the vote, to beat the tie. We're missing somebody. I don't know, because
Let's
we're
go ahead and start with Trustee Gonzalez Brito, because I think Trustee Withrow is still reviewing the material. Sorry.
okay. That works.
Okay, I've changed my vote to Molina.
Thank you. Trustee Reese?
I will stay with Bertrand.
Thank you.
Lena,
I will also vote for Molina.
And Molina myself.
Molina.
All right.
And I'm with Melina.
Thank you.
So the alternate is Bertrand.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much, board members.
Do we need a motion and a second
That's
to
not
make this
in the board
official?
room. I think that we do need a motion and a
I would
second.
suggest that, yes.
do we approve,
Leilani Huen, Daniel Alvarado, and Emily Molina.
exactly.
Thank you. I'll
With
second that.
Beltran as being the alternate.
With Bertrand as being the, Alexandra Bertrand being the alternate, yes, and I'll second that. Thank you. Any other discussion before we head to roll call? I don't think so. Let's go ahead.
Student Trustee Hogan. Student Trustee Latino.
Yes.
Trustee Withrow.
Yes.
Trustee Johannes.
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Ewan.
Yes.
Trustee Napoleon Bellaris.
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Brito.
Yes.
Trustee Quinlan.
Yes.
Trustee Delphine Polk.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great. Thanks you. Thank you. Okay. We need to go back to BP 2431, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And we also need
Okay.
the calendar.
Okay, I'm actually getting a request for a quick break. So let's go ahead and take 5 minutes and then come back. Okay, thank you.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
And then we have closed.
is this stuff?
I don't know, but I'm so hungry.
No, what is it?
Oh, it's just green juice. So it's green juice. So there's kale, cucumber, spinach, parsley, and apple.
You like kale?
I love kale. I love Brussels sprouts.
Fall, kale, pine.
Do you use them?
I don't eat
So
it. My
good.
wife eats it. And,
So good for you.
tastes like- I can bring some for you.
I actually love fresh kale.
You
I
like
really do.
chard?
I don't. Yeah,
That's the thing is
I'm not big on chards. Do you have Brussels sprouts? I'll take that from your garden.
Spinach, lettuce, snap peas,
I think we're ready to go, right?
broccoli, cauliflower.
I wish I had a garden like that. Yep.
It's broccoli, purple color.
Okay, let's go ahead and come back, folks. So back to BP 2431. Do we want to talk about our options? Trustee Reese, do you want to go first?
Sure. So maybe I think I'm going to go with Trustee Gonzalez Yuan's recommendation because we don't seem to have any differentiation or disagreement about the May, I think. So maybe if we can do that, excuse me, I move to make May instead of shall.
Okay. Trustee Reese is moving to make may instead of shall in terms of the site visit. Is there a second?
Second.
Trustee Johannes, thank you. Roll call.
Excuse me, can I make an additional suggestion?
Go ahead. Go ahead, Nikki. Sorry, I can't see the Zoom from here, so.
Yeah, so I would propose an additional sentence following the may, and I put it into the webinar chat. The board recognizes that carrying out a site visit can often be very informative in the process of making a final decision about a prospective chancellor candidate. So that we're acknowledging that, in fact, there's a good reason to do it. It's not saying we should have to do it, but it's a nod towards that direction. So it's just a thought. If
Thank
that's
you.
not useful, it's fine.
Okay. Trustee Johannes?
I do understand why you'd like to add that, but I think the language is for this board and future boards. So this board may think that it's necessary, but other boards may not. So I think we leave may and leave it open to discussion for our board and boards to come.
Thank you. I would agree with that. All right, any other discussion? Okay, let's go ahead and go to a roll call.
So just to confirm, we are voting on on may and not shall, correct?
May, not shall, correct.
And the first motion was from trustee Reese and the second was from trustee Johannes.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Student trustee Hogan,
Yes.
student trustee Latino,
Yes.
trustee Withrow,
Yes,
trustee Johannes,
Yes.
trustee Ewan,
Yes,
trustee Napoli Reese,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Brito,
Yes.
trustee Quinlan,
Yes.
trustee Delphine Polk.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great. Thank you very much. So back to the number of trustees versus an advisory vote. VP Quinlan,
I'd like to move 3 advisory votes.
second.
second from trustee Withrow. Roll call. I'm sorry, discussion. I apologize. Discussion.
Is there anybody out there?
Is there any other additional discussion?
What is?
Sure. Trustee Johannes?
I understand the majority are in favor of three advisory votes. I'm just gonna once again say, I think if we do want the shared governance and our voice heard, if it is our hire from the very beginning to have 2, to not be as overbearing, but still with a vote to ensure that we're there for a reason, instead of sort of, sitting there hounding. So once again, 2 votes, 2 trustees with a vote. But we'll see how this works out.
Similarly, I also do believe that there is a necessity in actually having our voice heard vis-a-vis a vote. And so I also think that an advisory vote is a bit similar to not even being there, potentially on some level, at least in terms of weight at the end of that process. And so I still urge the board to think about the implications, worst case scenarios. And I know that Nikki, you had said that if such a thing were to happen and the committee and the board were so far apart, there's something wrong. You're right. There is something very wrong. But I just want us to think about possible scenarios and possible implications. And we have no other there are no other recourses, because remember, we took that clause out of the policy for good reason, because we shouldn't be bypassing a process, the shared governance process, which is why having 3 real votes as opposed to advisory votes would be 1/6 of the aggregate number of people in that particular room. So I just want the board to think about its possible implications if we decide to make the 3 votes advisory votes.
Okay, I'm
Got a
leaving
hand
for
up.
that now. You all have convinced me, so I applaud you.
Trustee
I'm
Ewan
also
has his
leaving
hand
for
up.
that. Okay, go ahead, Nikki.
So Cindy, we actually do have a recourse. If in fact things have gone that wrong, the board can start the search over. That's in the policy. If it's gone so
I
wrong
mean,
that
that's worst
candidate,
case scenario, isn't it?
I'm just saying, in the worst case scenario that Cindy's imagining, that overwhelmingly the 3 people on the board say, we wanted a candidate advanced into the final pool. We were unanimous in that. And the committee didn't move us forward. At that point, the board could, in that extreme situation where in fact there was concurrence among 3 trustees on that question, the board could call it a failed search and start over. That seems very unlikely. And as Trustee Johannes said, there's no guarantee that the board members would be unified in that process. So I think you're looking at a worst case scenario. And I think, again, the most important thing there is not our vote, but is our voice and our ears. And it's more even the ears than the vote. We need to hear what is it that's going on, the conversations, what is it that they're concerned about, particular candidates, et cetera. And that's why I think having 3 people there is more important than having 3 votes there. But I've said that, now I'm repeating myself. I think we're all repeating ourselves. So I think there's a motion on the floor. Let's
Motion
go
in
to
a
the vote.
second. We're in discussion right now. Trustee Reese and then Trustee VP Quinlan.
Yes, that is a worst case scenario. And I think the idea of actually starting a new search and the timeline associated with that are that's just a daunting idea, and it is a worst case scenario. But I think it's really important for us to think about the implications of our policy when we make them, because often we create and draft a policy thinking only of utopian or good, no problem situations. And I think it's really important for us to exercise thinking about the possible worst case scenarios so that we could be okay with that, if we're going to be okay with that. And I think that it is really important for our ears to be in that conversation. And when we go back to the board in public session, that becomes part of the conversation with the whole board. But I think it's also important for the voice vis-a-vis a vote to come out. And I'm not even saying unanimous 3. It's quite possible that you have 3 very different votes. And that one vote, if it's advisory for any of the candidates, may not count because it's advisory. So I'm not saying 3 unanimous votes. I'm just saying a
3
vote.
votes.
Yeah, 3 votes in any which way.
VP Quinlan.
So the point I would like to make is this comes to us as a shared governance decision from our PGC. That agreement with this was from faculty, from classified, from SEIU, from PFT, from our administrators and our 4 college presidents. And I don't know if that's ever happened in the history of the world. So I would hate to mess with the karma associated with bucking that trend.
Go ahead, trustee Yohannes.
I would just like to add that this was suggested by Dr. Benjamin, I believe, as she's a consultant and has also said through her research, this is not to say we should be following what other organizations or other colleges or districts are doing, but this is what they're progressing towards of sorts. And if they find that this is more helpful than what has worked in the past, and this is something brand new, as we did mention before, we might as well try something new, especially if research is showing that it's actually maybe something in the right direction.
Yep, I agree. Thank you. So do we want to repeat the motion on the floor?
The motion is for 3 advisory votes of board members on the committee.
So we need a second for this to proceed, correct? Oh, Bill, you did second.
Yeah,
that.
we
Okay.
have a second.
Okay, let's go ahead and move to roll call.
Student trustee Hogan,
Yes.
student trustee Latino,
Yes.
trustee Withrow,
Yes.
trustee Yohannes,
No.
trustee Gonzalez Ewan,
Yes.
trustee Napoleon Villeries,
No.
trustee Quinlan,
Yes,
trustee Delphine Polk.
No.
you skipped.
Oh.
Oh, my apologies.
Brito.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Trustee Gonzalez Brito,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay, so we have 3 trustees with advisory votes on the screening committee now. Did we want to? I mean, I have recommendations if this is the appropriate time, recommendations for the trustees on that screening committee. I'd be happy to share those. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm totally confused, but don't we still have to vote on the whole policy?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
I'm asking if if Natasha's still on, if that's appropriate to talk about at the conclusion of this discussion, or if that's for a later meeting.
You should complete the item at hand,
Okay,
President.
let's go ahead and do that.
Yes, thank you.
VP Quinlan?
So I move the board policy 2431 as amended.
Second. That's everybody too.
Do we want to repeat the modifications to the?
So
To the
the
VP.
only amendment I think was the 3 advisory. We went back to the and it is may instead of shall. So
That's correct.
May stays. That's not an amendment. The only amendment is the 3 advisory instead of 3 voting members.
Okay. Is that a move approval? What would be most helpful? I know you need to be on the mic, Cindy.
What would you like, Chancellor? Would you like this motion to be more specific in terms of A, this is what we agree, C, D, E, because there are a variety of different places where there's highlights. And so I just want to make sure that it comes across as very, very clear.
Should we start from the top and then just go down?
I was gonna say, if we could review the items that were agreed in, that you did not have any changes to, just so that it goes down as this, we accept, and I'm offering this as a suggestion, is that the board accept the recommendations from the PGC in the following areas, with the exception of the one area that was changed, which was the changing it from 1 advisory vote to 3 advisory votes.
Correct. VP Quinlan?
So I'd like to make that motion that we accept the PGC's recommendation, except changing the number of advisory board members from 1 to 3.
And
The May in the May instead of a shall.
In those two areas, F2 and F.
And we accept the other changes.
We accept the other
Yes.
changes.
Second.
Right. Motion and second. Any other discussion before we vote? Okay, let's go ahead and vote.
Student trustee Hogan,
Yes.
student trustee Latino,
Yes.
trustee Withrow,
Yes.
trustee Johannes,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Yuan,
Yes.
trustee Napoli Bellarice,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Brito,
Yes.
trustee Quinlan,
Yes.
trustee Delphine Polk.
Yes,
Motion passes.
great. Good discussion, folks. This is good. Okay, now would this be the time to talk about screening committee appointments for the,
I would ask if now that we know who's going to be on the committee,
Sure.
that we have a chance to review that with you
Can
and
do.
you make your nominations based
Okay.
upon that, given that we want to have a balanced
Absolutely.
a committee.
Okay, that sounds good. We'll hold off on that until we have a chance to discuss it. Thank you.
Okay. And we also will be asking the other constituency groups to make their appointments, and then HR will
Okay.
look at that, and then we can make a decision at
Sounds
that
good.
time, if you would give us that indulgence.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Whatever you need, Chancellor, as long as we get this underway, I think we're in good shape. So, okay, thank you. Okay, so that is it for our action items, I believe, correct?
The only item we do need a motion
Mhm.
and a second and a vote on is the item for the calendar. And the calendar, which is the next item that's on there, 9.2. Is a calendar based upon you accepting and the approving the BP today. So, and it
Great.
is the one that was presented to the board previously, looking at a decision being made during the month of November with a start date and January of 2024.
And that timeline has not changed as I understand it, right?
We are
Okay.
still on track. We just had to make the decision today to stay on track.
Great. Can I get a motion to approve 9.2, which is the timeline for the permanent chancellor search process?
So moved.
Thank you, trustee Withrow. Second. Thank you, trustee Reese. Any other discussion? And I want to reiterate that we have not made any changes to this since it was presented by Dr. Benjamin and Dr. Miles. Okay, great.
Absolutely.
Okay. Let's go to a roll call.
Student trustee Hogan,
Yes.
student trustee Latino,
Yes.
trustee Withrow,
Yes.
trustee Johannes,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Yuan,
Yes.
trustee Napoli Bellarice,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Brito,
Yes.
trustee Quinlan,
Yes.
trustee Delphine Polk.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Wonderful. Okay, let's go to 10.1, Board of Trustees reports. Does anyone have any reports that they would like to announce to the community? VP Quinlan? Oh, we have announcements, but are there any other trustees who want to give a report? Okay.
So a week ago, Monday, the Laney College and Dr. Besikoff hosted the statewide ASCCC Northern California region CTE committee that meets to look at CTE programs around the state and policy from, we talked about the SCIF, we talked about enrollment, and it was a really nice event.
Trustee Reese?
Want to share that I was in my car the other day and lo and behold, I heard KQED saying that across the country and in California, enrollments are down, except for Laney College at 18% is what they said, right? And it was Marlon Hall that actually did the interview, I think. So in case you haven't heard, you're on the news.
I have a quick report out. I brought back trustee office hours, and so I spent part of my lunch hour a couple weeks ago at Kay's Cafe, which is outside of BCC. I had the very fortunate experience of having a couple of students and some staff come by. And so I was able to talk to them, get some updates on what's happening at BCC. And so I will be doing that again. I really enjoy being able to do that in person. Again, earlier today with the 10-year reception, that's the first time I've met a lot of people in person because I got elected in November of 2020. So everything was online. And so I just want to say that it's just such a pleasure to be here with all of you in person. And yeah, I really enjoyed today. Congratulations again to all of those who are tenured. It's a great accomplishment for our district and for our community here and for the students. Trustee Johannes, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Apparently I do have a report. No, it's, you reminded me of it. Thank you. Because I wanted to start office or drop in hours as well. I wasn't sure when and how, not how, sort of when to do so. I'm thinking monthly, but at the same time, anyone listening, please shoot Johannes at peralta.edu. Let me know when, why, how, what you think. And then I'll most likely post it to the Peralta, our bio site, and say, these are the times we're dropping, and you can follow and register or email me to find out exactly how to log in. So thanks for reminding me.
Great, of course. Anybody else? Okay, let's go ahead and move to announcements. VP Quinlan.
Our announcements for this evening are.
Oh, I'm sorry. Chancellor?
I'm sorry. I just wanted to, it's something I'd asked the board to do. I was just notified that a longtime part-time instructor at College of Alameda passed away, Ralph Marinaro. I just found out and I was asked if we could close in his honor. Ralph, I knew him in two. He was like me. He was also in the military. He was a one-star general. When he retired, I was a cadet going through the system, and he was a one-star general. So when I saw him, I used to salute him. And whenever he would come into my office as the vice president, when I was there, he would salute me because he said, well, I work for you now. So just a really active in theater. Used to do a lot of the, we used to have like a major convocation. He would MC that. He did a lot of fundraising with the foundation. He would MC that and was known in Little Theater in the Walnut Creek area. That's where he resided. So if we could close on in honor of him, just a moment of silence, I would appreciate it.
We'll go ahead and do announcements and then we'll adjourn in his memory.
So our announcements for tonight are spring 8-week late start sessions are still available. So it's not too late to enroll, for spring is free. Please visit the college websites for more information. 2, the Peralta College is celebrating Women's History Month in March with events at each of the campuses, including a financial literacy event on March 20th, sponsored by the Berkeley City College Women's Leadership Club. Again, visit the college website for details. 3, the Board of Trustees Committee on Student Success and Accreditation will be meeting on Thursday, March 16th, 2023 at 10 a.m. here in the boardroom. For details, visit the Peralta website at www.peralta.edu. 4, thank you, taxpayers. Please join us at College of Alameda on March 22nd, 2023 at 12:30 p.m. for the groundbreaking ceremony for the new bond-funded Transportation Technology Center housing COA's auto diesel programs. Refreshments will be served. Please RSVP at the Build Peralta website.
Thank you very much for those announcements. I don't believe we have a closed session scheduled, but I don't believe we're going to honor that right now, right? We don't have anything to discuss. Okay, great.
We're not.
No. So let's go ahead and adjourn. Do you want to repeat the name of the man who passed?
He was known to me as General Ralph Marinaro. Loved Italian food. Made great pasta. Always had a laugh, taught speech for years and years and years, over 25 years in the Peralta district, and will be sorely missed. He was a character. Let me just put it that way, quite a character. You remember him. He's passed away, Bill. He passed away. So if we could just have a moment of silence before we adjourn. Thank you. Thank you all.
And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
sort of